Chapter 919. Countless sword auras were sent out at the same time. Like soft water plants and vines, they danced and twined gently, pouncing on Guangu's sword auras. And Chu Yang himself retreated lightly as if he was weightless. He retreated 100 feet. Zi Sheqing's eyes lit up. Chu Yang had actually entered the Tao state in such a short period of time. This was the best way to deal with the current situation. The opponent was obviously trying to break Chu Yang's soft water-like sword intent forcefully with his tyrannical strength. Chu Yang retreated now. The sword aura was still there, but the opponent couldn't attack him anymore. But from this point it could be seen that Chu Yang didn't want to fight for a long time. The opponent had too many people and too many experts. If Chu Yang wanted to kill someone, he had to create an opportunity for the expert beside Lan Ruoyun to not be able to save him in time. Guangu's long sword slashed left and right. The audience could actually see the green sword aura drifting in all directions. Grand Uncle Han frowned. My sword technique is too weird. How did Guangu fall into a passive state at the first encounter? The situation is a little bad. As he said, he took a small step forward. At this moment, Guangu broke free from Chu Yang's sword aura. He suddenly raised his arm and pierced forward. His sword turned into flowing light. The man and the sword became a straight line at this moment, parallel to the ground. At this moment, the long sword pierced the air in front of him and made a boom sound. This sword strike actually produced a sonic boom. Wind-snatching sword. Grand Uncle Han frowned even more. This is Guangu's desperate move. He actually used it at the second move. Guangu was already a little angry. He came out full of confidence and promised solemnly. But he was forced into a disadvantageous position by the opponent at the first move. And that entangled sword aura made him feel a little suffocated and uncomfortable. Facing the opponent, he even felt a little scared. The opponent is just a 5th stage sword sovereign. How can he make me feel scared? Guangu was furious. He directly launched his most powerful move without hesitation. He wanted to kill the opponent in front of him with one move. Chu Yang's retreating momentum had stopped. At this moment, facing the opponent's lightning-like sword, he actually rose into the air as well. He and his sword formed a straight line in the air, parallel to the ground. His sword flashed as he shot through the air. Both Guangu and Chu Yang did the same. The spectators couldn't help but cry out in surprise when they saw this. This was clearly a suicidal move. Could it be that this was only the second move, and they were going to perish together, exchanging a life for a life? Based on their current distance and sword momentum, it was already impossible for them to change their moves. There was only one result in such a duel. You stab your sword into my head and I stab my sword into your head. There would never be a second outcome. Lan Ruoyun also exclaimed. Then, a hint of viciousness appeared in his eyes. It's good that Guangu died together with this little guy. Anyway, no matter what, if this little guy dies, I'll just get that woman into my bed. Who cares who dies? The two swords faced each other head-on. Cold light flickered and both of them had calm gazes. Guangu's hair fluttered behind him and his clothes rustled. His whole person was like a javelin flying at high speed. Chu Yang's gaze was cold and his expression was calm. At this moment, his fighting spirit was boiling, and his killing intent was surging. However, his heart was as still as ice. In the land of Tao, this was the first time that he had reached such a sword state. His whole body was filled with an indescribable cold killing intent. This person must be killed. Not only him, Chu Yang wouldn't let any of these people who were present today off if he could kill them. Young Thug was lecherous and only lecherous. After all, everyone was lecherous. After seeing a beautiful woman, who wouldn't want to take a few more glances? But the reason why he developed into possession and snatching by force had a lot to do with these evil slaves. If these people didn't add fuel to the fire, how could a young man become a young thug on his own, no matter how evil his nature was? Seeing that Lan Ruoyun didn't hold back in front of these people and directly snatched a woman, Chu Yang knew that these people were already used to such things. He didn't know how many times these bastards had helped Lan Ruoyun. Therefore, Lan Ruoyun didn't hold back in front of them and was unscrupulous. So many loving couples who should have grown old together were ruined in the hands of these bastards. Young thugs should be killed. These accomplices should be killed even more. The killing intent in Chu Yang's heart was even stronger. Seeing that the two swords were about to cross each other and pierce into each other's head, both parties didn't have the intention to change their moves. At this moment, even if they wanted to, it was already too late. Everyone couldn't help but hold their breaths. They stared with their eyes wide open, as if blood would splatter in the next moment. Guangu's eyes finally revealed a trace of regret and panic. In his opinion, this young man opposite him was just bluffing. After all, not everyone didn't want to live. Besides, this young man had such a peerless beauty beside him, all the more he wouldn't want to die. This battle was nothing more than a competition of courage. Whoever could persist till the end would win. Therefore he didn't dodge and directly thrust his sword forward. But until the moment of contact, the other party was actually even calmer than him. He was even more unafraid of death than him. This made Guangu's mind in a mess. Damn it, you're fucking serious with me? At this moment, Guangu shouted in his heart. I'm finished. This time I'm going to die with you. But I've just used my wind-snatching sword and only used one move. I've lost big time. Others couldn't see the change in Guangu's expression, but how could Chu Yang, who was facing her, not see it? Chu Yang's eyes revealed a trace of mockery. A sword tip flashed with cold light and magnified infinitely in front of Chu Yang. Chu Yang, who was in the Tao state, had already accurately captured the trajectory of the other party's sword and the direction of the sword tip. The next moment, ding. A soft sound froze everyone's nerves at this moment. All the spectators, including the supreme martial artist beside Lan Ruoyun, were dumbfounded. They almost couldn't believe their eyes. Just in midair, the scene seemed to have been frozen. Two swords, sword tip against sword tip, actually froze in midair. How big was the sword tip? The sword tip of a sword was definitely comparable to the tip of a needle. Even to the extent that this kind of divine sword that had been through hundreds of battles and drank blood, the sword tip was even smaller than the tip of a needle. However, such a smiling existence, in such a rapid battle, under such a terrifying speed, the two swords actually miraculously froze in midair. Not only did the sword tip meet the sword tip, but it also made a sound that clearly passed into everyone's ears. This showed how much strength both parties used in the battle. Guangu felt relieved. He only felt sweat drenching his clothes. He immediately decided, I'll never risk my life to fight with this crazy little guy again. He's really too scary. This time it's really pure luck. As long as I fall from midair, I'll immediately use my wind-snatching sword and chop this little guy into minced meat at the fastest speed. Damn it, I'm scared to death. However, the next moment, Guangu's relieved eyes suddenly turned into fear, despair and disbelief. Because the sword tip of Chu Yang's sword actually emitted a strange force. Immediately, Guangu realized that this sword that had accompanied him for his whole life was suddenly cut apart by the other party's sword, just like a fresh bamboo that was cut apart by the other party's sword. Guangu's sword was cut into two pieces with a swoosh. With a swoosh it reached the sword hilt, and the other party's sword rushed in between the two pieces of sword. The phrase, like a hot knife through butter, was absolutely appropriate here. The long sword cut open the tip of Guangu's sword, the edge of Guangu's sword, and the hilt of Guangu's sword. It pierced into Guangu's arm like a lightning bolt. With a bang, Guangu's arm exploded like a piece of bamboo. The next moment, swoosh. A soft sound. Chu Yang's long sword had already pierced into Guangu's forehead, through his skull and deep into his brain. At this moment, the sword energy burst out from the sword tip like a raging wave. The sword tip continued to move forward, and a cold light appeared at the back of Guangu's head. It was stained with blood, dripping and shining. With a swoosh, Chu Yang sheathed his sword. He somersaulted in midair and kicked Guangu's head. Guangu's body flew out like a broken sack. His black clothes fluttered as he flew back in midair. Only then did a stream of blood spurt out from Guangu's forehead, as if to attack Chu Yang. However, as Chu Yang retreated, the blood could not reach Chu Yang at all. Chu Yang landed on the ground, and the stream of blood that spurted out also landed on the ground. It was 1 foot away from Chu Yang's feet. Guangu's body retreated straight back in the air, following the trajectory that he had just flown in. His body was flat, and blood spurted out from his forehead and the back of his head at the same time. It was as if 2 blood fountains had suddenly appeared in the air. Guangu had lost all consciousness. At that moment, Chu Yang, while he was still in shock, the sword energy exploded in his mind, and instantly collapsed along his meridians, destroying his dantian. All of his life force, all of his consciousness, all of his divine will, were completely and utterly destroyed at that moment. From escaping death to complete death, Guangu did not even have time to moan or say a word. Poof! Guangu's body flew back and fell on the ground softly. He did not even twitch, and he was already silent. Everyone in the Lan clan was dumbfounded. Looking at Guangu's corpse, their minds were blank. There were too many unexpected things. No one had expected that things would turn out like this. Firstly, no one had expected that the two parties would stab each other. Secondly, it was even more unexpected that the sword tips would touch each other. Then Guangu's sword would suddenly split open, and the other party would seize the opportunity to kill him. This was even more unbelievable and ridiculous. However, the appearance of these three factors had caused the death of a half-martial saint. Killing a half-martial saint with 2 moves. This black-clothed youth who looked so handsome and confident was actually so ruthless in his actions. After a while, everyone's gaze lifted up from Guangu's corpse and looked at Chu Yang. Their gazes had already changed. "Young man, you're quite capable. I also quite like the sword in your hand." Lan Ruoyun smiled. Without even looking at Guangu's corpse, he said directly to Chu Yang, "Your sword, what kind of sword is it? Leave the sword and the woman behind and you can leave. I won't pursue the matter of you killing my subordinate." Chapter 920. At such a time he actually started to care about Chu Yang's sword. Chu Yang didn't know whether to laugh or cry. "Net, this guy's eyesight is not bad. He can actually tell that my sword is not an ordinary one." Chu Yang said coldly, "My sword is only used to kill people. I will never give it away. If you kill me, the sword is yours and so is the woman. But if you can't kill me, the sword is not yours, the woman is not yours, and your life is not yours." Lan Ruoyun snorted and shouted, "Who's going to kill him for me?" At the side, Grand Uncle Han said in a low voice, "Fifth Gene, you go." A burly man came out. He was holding a purple gold saber. He looked at Chu Yang and said, "Little one, you're an evil slave." Chu Yang interrupted. Fifth Jin's face changed instantly. You're an evil slave." Chu Yang raised his sword and said, "Come up and die. I'm not interested in hearing your name." Fifth Jin roared and rushed up with his saber. Chu Yang smiled and went up with his sword. The two of them were entangled together instantly. "Grand Uncle Han, you should be able to take down Fifth Jin, right?" Lan Ruoyun looked at Zi Xiecheng, who was standing quietly in the distance, as if this matter had nothing to do with her. His eyes were already a little red. He was thinking about what he would do after he got her. As he thought of this, he had already set up a tent under his crotch. Fifth Jin is a second-grade martial saint. It's a piece of cake for him to take down this little one. Grand Uncle Han said faintly, "Except for the 2 Jin brothers and me, the rest of the people here will only die if they go up." That's good, Lan Ruoyun said joyfully. "But, 7th young master, even if this young man dies in our hands, this matter must not be spread out. Once it's leaked out, it'll definitely be a huge disaster." Grand Uncle Han warned worriedly, to be able to cultivate such a person, he must be a reclusive high-level supreme martial artist. If the other party comes to find us, then, even the Lan clan will be in chaos. We can't protect you." Lan Ruoyun said disapprovingly, "No matter how powerful he is, can he be stronger than a heaven-layer great clan?" Grand Uncle Han sighed and didn't say anything. He thought, "You are so ignorant. In this layer of heaven there are many people that the big clans are afraid of. Let's take the most obvious example. Ning Qinya Buluqing Yulingxue Feng Euro. Any big clan that offended any one of these 4 would face a devastating disaster." In the arena, the battle between the two was getting more and more intense. Net at the side of the arena, Zi Xiecheng's 2 small hands were hidden in her sleeves as she made mysterious gestures. Waves of Tao state aura, which were hard to see with the naked eye, flowed into her palms from the battlefield like rivers flowing into the sea. Now, her control was more delicate and cautious than when she was in the Black Blood Forest. All the Tao state energy was controlled by her invisibly, and not a single bit leaked out. In this way, only Zi Xiecheng and Chu Yang himself knew that Chu Yang had entered the Tao state. Others couldn't detect it at all. Even this first-grade supreme martial artist who was standing beside Lan Ruoyun couldn't detect the real background of this young sword emperor in front of him. Thus, he kept making wrong decisions which allowed Chu Yang to achieve the greatest training effect. Chu Yang was already in a tough battle. This 5th Jin was a true second-grade martial saint expert. Once the battle started, Chu Yang felt the pressure as if a mountain was pressing down on him. The other party's purple gold saber was like a wild dragon that overturned rivers and seas. It was powerful and heavy, and every slash carried with it the sound of wind and thunder. Moreover, although the other party was tall and burly, his body movements were extremely agile. His body moved with the saber and he became one with the saber. Purely based on the degree of proficiency, among all the people that Chu Yang had met, only Dong Wuxiang could be compared with this person in terms of proficiency in saber techniques. But in terms of combat power, Dong Wuxiang was far behind 5th Jin. Once the battle started, Chu Yang was in a disadvantageous position. But as his spirit entered the Tao state in the next moment, it became more daunting than dangerous. In the Tao state, the other party's saber attacks were all traceable and could be seen clearly. Although Chu Yang was still in a disadvantageous position, his life was definitely not in danger. He concentrated on using the soft water sword intent, and fought steadily and surely. While the soft water sword intent that borrowed strength to fight strength was protecting himself, it was also slowly, thread by thread, causing the opponent to be entangled with a force. The battle was in a stalemate. Chu Yang's comprehension was also getting deeper and deeper. He even comprehended the saber state at one point in time from the other party's saber light. Although the pressure that Fifth Jin gave him was great compared to Zi Xiecheng, it was like heaven and earth. Chu Yang had been fighting with Zi Xiecheng every day these few days, and he was already used to fighting under such great pressure. At this moment, although he was in a disadvantageous position, he was actually able to cope with it with ease. Although the battle with Zi Xiecheng was intense and stressful, Chu Yang himself knew that his life was not in danger, so he didn't have any scruples. But the thing that could really push people to improve was always fear. Only when extreme fear was used as pressure could one make the most terrifying outburst. This kind of fear included the fear of death and the fear of loss. So, to Chu Yang, this moment of life and death crisis was the real experience, the experience of life and death. And the so-called martial world experience and battle experience that could be engraved in one's bones could only be formed in such a battle of life and death. Chu Yang's sword was like soft water rippling gently, while Fifth Jin's saber was like a huge mountain, smashing into the sea fiercely. Although the sea was passively bearing it, and the mountain could cause huge waves when it smashed into the sea, it would still be calm after that. But the mountain would sink to the bottom of the sea and wouldn't be of any use here. Under such circumstances, the battle between the two of them continued in a cycle. Chu Yang kept changing his body movements, from the fleeting snow cloud steps of Beyond the Heavens sect to the spectral steps of the first-generation sword master of the Calamity Sword, and then to the ghost steps, heavenly star steps, 7 steps to heaven that the sword spirit had taught him. He had already switched between 30 to 40 different types of footwork. Sometimes it was gentle, sometimes it was ethereal, sometimes it was strange, sometimes it was illusory. In short, although Fifth Jin had the upper hand in all aspects, the feeling of having nowhere to exert his strength made him, the person who had the upper hand, feel extremely aggrieved. Because from the start of the battle until now, the weapons of both parties had only clashed dozens of times, and from then on, they had never clashed again. What kind of feeling was this? Every strike of the saber struck the void with great force. Time passed bit by bit. Grand Uncle Han, who was standing beside Lan Ruoyun, slowly felt that something was wrong. This was because Chu Yang's sword momentum had changed. The originally calm sea was now slightly surging with waves. It was as if there was a wind blowing across the sea surface, and the waves were sparkling. Grand Uncle Han suddenly realized that the battle situation was quietly changing. Fifth Jin's original attack had now become 80%. The opponent had started to counterattack. Just when Grand Uncle Han realized this, Chu Yang's sword momentum changed again. Waves started to appear on the sparkling sea, like a layer of silver waves rolling over from the sky. Fifth Jin's saber was already a little sluggish. Chu Yang had already changed from 10% attack to 30% attack. Grand Uncle Han's fingers touched his beard lightly and he looked worried. Did the opponent do this deliberately? Or was he at the end of his rope? Just when he was hesitating, Chu Yang's sword momentum changed again. The sword moves were like waves rolling up, and the speed became faster and faster, surging forward one after another. Fifth Jin was forced to withdraw his saber. He first defended, then attacked. 55. The situation was actually equalized by Chu Yang in an instant. This miraculous reversal left all the spectators dumbfounded. Excluding Grand Uncle Han, Fifth Jin's strength was second only to his big brother, Fourth Jin, and he was definitely ranked second. Second stage martial saint. In the martial world, he was already close to a legendary existence. But at this moment, after fighting with a young man for 2 hours, he was actually able to attack and defend with the opponent? This was simply unbelievable. Where did such a monstrous young man come from? But at this moment, when everyone saw that it was a 50-50 situation, the situation on the battlefield suddenly changed drastically. Chu Yang let out a long roar. His long sword shook violently and he shouted, "Heavenly thunder! Transform into my wild waves." The sword light suddenly spread out with a buzzing sound. The waves in the sea suddenly surged up to the sky and the wind and clouds surged. The water was so strong that it seemed to be connected with the sky. Streaks of sword light shone in such waves, as if they were connected with the heaven and the earth. It was as if the thunderbolts in the sky had descended from the sky at this moment, cheering for the wind and waves. The huge wind and waves completely drowned Fifth Gene. Just a moment ago the two sides were still 55. But at this moment, Fifth Gene didn't even have half a chance to attack, and was only left with pure defense. Yes, defense. Because even if he defended, he might not be able to defend. The soft water sword intent that Chu Yang had set up from the start was densely packed layer by layer. Although Fifth Gene had cut them all off, they didn't disappear. At this moment, with the guidance of Chu Yang's sword momentum, the soft water sword intent that had been scattered for 100 years were all gathered together again. A simple sword intent couldn't affect Fifth Gene's saber technique. But the soft water sword intent that Chu Yang had set up from the start had accumulated more than 10 million sword intents. Now that they were all gathered together, their power was already terrifying. Hundreds of rivers converged into the sea, forming a huge pulling force. Fifth Gene's saber started to deviate from its direction. No matter how hard he tried, even if his face turned red, the saber that was supposed to be facing the front would always deviate a little. In a battle between experts, a slight difference could lead to a huge difference. Fifth Gene had no power to turn the situation around. He could only hold on bitterly. With a few swishing sounds, blood spurted out from Fifth Gene's body. He roared loudly and waved his saber with all his might. Fourth Gene, save your brother. Grand Uncle Han wanted to do it himself, but he respected his status and ordered Fourth Gene to do it. But it was too late. Thank you to Long Yinue for the 400,000 Piao Hong today. Congratulations to Alliance Master Long for becoming the Grand Alliance Master. Thank you to Roaming Dragon 99999, Alliance Master Piao Hong for the tip. Thank you for becoming the Grand Alliance Master. I've always seen you vote but never enter the group. Thank you to Roaming Dragon 99999, Alliance Master for the continuous support from Evil Monarch to Grand Alliance Master. Thank you. Thank you to Slight Clear Sorrow, Alliance Master Piao Hong for the tip. Thank you for becoming the Grand Alliance Master. Thank you to Red Dust Trouble, Alliance Master Piao Hong. I've received Piao Hong many times this month. Thank you for your support. Thank you to I'm Book Maniac 6, Shui Ling Long, Who Will the Windflower Fall, Battle Breaking Azure Dragon Bear. There are too many people to list them all. I'll organize them into a book of thanks. Thank you all. Chapter 921. If Grand Uncle Han took action personally without hesitation, he could still save Fifth Gene's life. But he ordered Fourth Gene to take action. It would take time for Dao Jinsi to hear the order and execute it. If it was a normal battle, this little bit of time wouldn't affect the overall situation at all. But under Chu Yang's sword, this little bit of time was enough to kill. Because the sword light had already converged into a raging sea. The entire sea had been netted. And Fifth Gene was struggling at death's door in this sea of sword light and raging sword energy. Just when Fourth Gene jumped out with a roar, he also heard the last scream of his younger brother. Ah, I'm not resigned to this. Chu Yang's sword was like the wind, flicking away the purple gold saber. The tip of the sword flashed and one of Fifth Gene's eyeballs flew out. With another flash, black water flowed out from the other eye. Then, Chu Yang guided the sword, and all the sword energy instantly gathered together and slashed down violently. Then, the waves of sword light could be seen as blood continuously flew up. Pieces of flesh and blood flew up into the air, and pieces of bone splashed out. Chu Yang kept his sword and retreated. He was panting and his face was already pale. But although he had already retreated, the raging sword light waves didn't disappear. Instead they were still slashing fiercely. Fourth Gene rushed in with a roar and slashed the sword energy crazily. When he rushed in, he couldn't help but let out a loud scream, "Brother!" The raging sword light waves dispersed, and Fourth Gene was seen standing there, holding his brother and roaring towards the sky. He roared towards the sky. Above the heads of the two brothers, countless pieces of flesh and blood fell like a rain of blood, drifting down. It fell on their bodies and faces. Fourth Gene howled towards the sky. His voice was shrill and tears rolled down his cheeks. Then he carried his brother's corpse with one hand and strode towards Chu Yang, roaring angrily, Little, you killed my brother. You actually dared to kill my brother. You actually dared to. Ah, I'm going to kill you. I'm going to tear you apart." It was only when he walked and swung his arm that everyone noticed Fifth Gene's appearance. They couldn't help but gasp. Fifth Gene, who was in his hand, didn't have any flesh on his body. Even his internal organs had been dug out. He carried his brother's corpse as he walked, and his right hand was actually holding the skeleton's spine. All that was left of his body were white bones. There wasn't even a trace of blood on his body. His entire body was like a skeleton that had been buried in the ground for hundreds of years. There was not a single bit of flesh left. It was clean. Chu Yang's face was pale. He said coldly, "So what if I killed your brother? If you want to die, I will fulfill your wish." Fourth Jin looked up to the sky and roared, his eyes completely red, "Come here, little bastard. Let me kill you." At this moment a soft voice said, "Chu Yang, you can't fight anymore. If he continued to fight, his body would be damaged. Leave these people to me." Chu Yang turned around and smiled. He said, "Okay." The one who spoke was Zi Sheqing. Chu Yang had fought 2 battles in a row, and his physical strength had long been overdrawn. How could he continue fighting at this moment? Zi Sheqing knew about this, Chu Yang knew about it, and even the remaining 10 people on the other side knew about it. It could also be seen that this young man's sword emperor was already at the end of his tether. Zi Sheqing's white dress fluttered, and she stood in front of Chu Yang in a flash. She blocked Chu Yang. Chu Yang smiled and turned around without any worry. He strode towards Chu Lure's position and sat down, panting heavily. Chu Lure massaged his shoulders and his chest, feeling sorry for him. "Big brother, I feel that something is not right." Chu Lure said carefully, "This Sister Z is obviously very powerful, but you have to stand in front of her and be her shield for everything. This makes me feel very uncomfortable." Chu Yang smiled and pinched her little nose. "Little girl, you can also tell this?" After a pause he said, "Don't you know that he wants me to enter the Tao state during the battle to collect the power of the Tao state?" "No." Chu Lure shook her head and shook Chu Yang's hand off her little nose. "I don't think it's so simple." "Of course it's not so simple." Chu Yang smiled and said, "But overall this matter is beneficial to me. Because under her supervision, I want to achieve my own goals and achieve my life's goal. So now her background is a little unclear and she is indeed using me as her shield. But, there's one thing that you haven't thought about. With her strength she doesn't need any shield at all." Chu Lure thought and immediately understood. Actually, this matter was just a roundabout problem. You only saw what was in front of you and seemed to only see Chu Yang fighting for others. No matter what, he would stand up for others. So you felt that it was unfair. But thinking about it, with Zi Sheqing's strength, did she need anyone to stand up for her? Did she need any protectors? That was not necessary at all. Not to mention a few playboys and perverts, even if a peak supreme martial artist came, what could he do? With the current Zi Sheqing, even if Ning Qianya and Bu Luqing wanted to stand up for her, she probably wouldn't care. Like what Chu Yang said, now that Chu Yang stood up for her, it wasn't that she was using Chu Yang, but that Chu Yang was actually using her. He would make use of these fierce battles to improve his own cultivation. He would use these battles to solidify his soul. Using these endless battles to push his cultivation up step by step to get closer to his goal. Because Chu Yang's goal was to consolidate the heavens without using the Calamity Sword. To protect his brothers. Such a goal, if there wasn't a strong pressure urging him from behind, and just relying on Chu Yang's own hard work, he might not be able to achieve it even in 10,000 years. But with Zi Sheqing it was very different. Because Zi Sheqing would always spur him to find different opponents for him to fight, and then improve during the battles. Even if there were no enemies, Zi Sheqing still wanted to fight with him. This imperceptibly increased Chu Yang's cultivation by 100 times compared to his original cultivation. And the most impressive thing was, once he met an enemy that he couldn't fight against, Zi Sheqing would definitely not watch him die. Because once he died, she wouldn't be able to find a second person like him who could continuously provide her with the power of the Tao state. So this was equivalent to a super bodyguard. Chu Yang felt a little strange. Unlimited benefits were in front of him, but why did this little girl only see him being used by others? At this moment, looking at the slim and graceful Zi Sheqing in front of him, Fourth Jin was already stunned. Not only was he stunned, even Lan Ruoyun and the rest were stunned. This delicate beauty actually went to fight? With such small arms and legs she would fall down with a breath. What kind of battle power could she have? Only Grand Uncle Han, who was standing beside Lan Ruoyun, had a doubtful and serious look on his face at this moment. How did this girl appear in front of that young man? Why didn't I see it clearly? She obviously didn't blink just now. Could it be that this delicate and timid girl is actually a peerless expert? Grand Uncle Han frowned and pondered in his heart. But he didn't notice that Lan Ruoyun, who was beside him, had already approached Zi Sheqing lecherously the moment he saw her coming out. This Grand Uncle Han originally wanted to stop him, but he suddenly thought, if she's really a peerless expert, Why didn't she flare up when she was teased by the seventh young master just now? So he gave up the thought of stopping him. Ah. Beauty, you're not joking, right? Lan Ruoyun swaggered over with an obscene smile all over his face. He said with a salivating face, "Why don't you fight with me? Let them all go and we can fight alone? I'll fight with you however you want. Do you want to fight on the bed? Or fight here? Or fight in the water? If there's really no other way, fight on the tree? Ah, how about it?" Zi Shiqing's eyes were cold. Suddenly, she looked at Lan Ruoyun without any expression. Suddenly, she smiled slightly and said, "Just you? Even your ancestors from 10,000 years ago didn't dare to talk to me like this. Your Lan clan is really bold." Suddenly, she stretched out her hand. Just as her fair hand appeared in the air, it was as if an orchid in an empty valley had suddenly bloomed, giving off a strong fragrance. Looking at this small hand, Lan Ruoyun was instantly distracted. He smiled obscenely and said, "Your small hand is so white, I wonder if it's soft." He stretched out his hand wanting to touch it. Right at this moment, a strange woo sound suddenly rang out in the air. Lan Ruoyun, who had just stretched out his hand, was a full 20 feet away from Zi Shiqing, but he seemed to be sucked over and flew over without his feet touching the ground. Zi Shiqing's small hand, which was as soft as water and as tender as spring onions, seemed to have become a deadly sharp claw at this moment. It clasped onto Lan Ruoyun's head like an iron clamp. "Kneel down." Zi Shiqing's face was cold and indifferent as she said softly. With a slight force, Lan Ruoyun couldn't help but kneel down stiffly. Just like a rotten wooden stake. This unforeseen event gave everyone a huge shock. Grand Uncle Han flew over. Looking at Zi Shiqing's eyes, he was actually a little shocked. He said, "Miss, my young master is young and insensible. He has offended you. Please spare him this time on account of the Lan clan." After a pause, he continued, "As long as you're willing to let go, we'll leave immediately. We won't dare to pester you anymore." Once an expert made a move, it would be obvious whether he was skilled or not. Zi Shiqing just stretched out her hand and sucked Lan Ruoyun, who was 20 feet away, into her hand. Grand Uncle Han instantly knew that the power of this woman was probably not below his own. He couldn't help but feel bitter in his heart. His intuition was indeed right. He had indeed gotten himself into big trouble. Just by looking at the way she grabbed him, he knew that this matter was difficult to handle. Their only hope was to see if the name of the Lan clan was enough to intimidate the other party. Seventh young master was under her control. As long as she wanted to kill him, she could do so easily. He definitely wouldn't be able to save him in time. Besides, even if it was a head-on battle, he also had no confidence in facing this woman. Lan Ruoyun, who was kneeling stiffly under Zi Shiqing's control, was even more in disbelief. His face was full of shock and disbelief. Even in his dreams, he didn't expect that this peerless beauty, whom he had been thinking of bringing home to ravage, would actually turn into such a terrifying demon. This was really... What exactly was going on? Lan Ruoyun wanted to cry. Zi Shiqing smiled. "Lan clan?" Grand Uncle Han nodded. "Yes." Zi Shiqing smiled gently. "Lan clan, you're actually using the Lan clan to suppress me? Haha, but what is the Lan clan? Today's update. My monthly votes are now 6,126. I've released the update of 6,170 in advance. Looks like I won't be able to release 10 chapters. I'm also relieved. I'm really exhausted." Chapter 922. Book 7, What Crime Should Be Meted Out. First update. Grand Uncle Han's expression changed drastically. He looked at Zi Shiqing with hostility and wariness. "Marceline Yang. What was the Lan clan?" This sentence was taboo in the heavens. Very few people dared to say this. Even the experts from the other big clans didn't dare to say this. This sentence had almost never appeared in this continent. But it finally appeared today. These words came out of the mouth of a beautiful woman with boundless contempt and disdain. Lan Ruoyun's face turned ashen after hearing this sentence. Since this woman didn't put the Lan clan in her eyes, wouldn't it mean that he would definitely die if he fell into her hands today? Grand Uncle Han said with difficulty, "Who exactly are you? Do you have any connections with the Lan clan?" Zi Shiqing shook her head lightly. "No." Grand Uncle Han forced a smile. "We're all people of the pugilistic world. We see each other all the time. As the saying goes, it's impossible for two mountains to meet again, but two people will eventually meet. With your cultivation, you should have boundless magnanimity. Why do you mind such a small misunderstanding from the younger generation?" Just raise your hand and this matter will be over. The Lan clan will be forever grateful. Isn't it better to be friends than enemies? Zi Shiqing laughed. If I didn't have such cultivation today, would this misunderstanding still be a misunderstanding? Grand Uncle Han was speechless. If you didn't have such cultivation? If you didn't have such cultivation, you would have already been taken to bed by the seventh young master and played with as you like. What misunderstanding would there still be? But of course this sentence couldn't be said out loud. At this point there was really no need to continue. Grand Uncle Han took a deep breath. His eyes turned cold and he said, "Since this is the case, please let go of the seventh young master and have a fair fight with me. According to the rules of the pugilistic world, the winner is the king. We can do whatever we want. How about that?" He puffed up his chest and a surge of battle intent gushed out like a tide. But he felt helpless in his heart. The opponent's cultivation was unfathomable. He could only use such means to let the seventh young master out of danger first, but he himself would be in danger. He didn't even know if the opponent would agree. Net 724 * continuous updates pure TXT novel. Zi Shiqing chuckled. You want him to escape first? Before he could finish speaking, he suddenly shouted, "How dare you!" As she spoke, Fourth Jin had already circled behind her. The distance between them wasn't very far, and he suddenly launched an attack. The purple gold saber, which was exactly the same as his brother's, emitted a dazzling saber radiance that was more than 20 feet long and shot towards Zi Shiqing. This strike fully displayed Fourth Jin's saint-level power. Even Fourth Jin, who unleashed this strike, thought in his heart, this strike was truly the best strike that he could unleash under such immense pressure. Be it in terms of realm, power, saber style, or saber force, they were all natural and invulnerable. When this saber was slashed out, Fourth Jin could even faintly hear the call of the great Tao, the sound of wind and thunder. His younger brother had died tragically right before his eyes, and he wanted to avenge his younger brother, yet he was obstructed by this unpredictable enemy. Boundless grief, indignation, and anger transformed into combat strength, battle intent, and a saber strike. This saber strike actually seemed to break through the bottleneck of Fourth Jin's saber skills. Fourth Jin was very confident that he could unleash this saber strike that was full of saint-level comprehension. This was an opportunity. As long as he had this saber strike and focused on cultivation, he would be able to advance by another level in less than a year. This was the true saber skill of a saber saint. The saber radiance left the body and turned into a dragon. A saber strike piercing through the heavens. This was the power of a heavenly saint. Life and death grip. When this saber strike was unleashed, the enemy's life and death would definitely be in his hands. Although it was a pity to kill such a great beauty, but the arrow was already on the bow and he had no choice but to release it. Grand Uncle Han was overjoyed. Fourth Jin's saber strike was powerful, ingenious, and just right. Even a supreme martial artist couldn't be indifferent to this saber strike, but as long as the other party reacted, he would be able to snatch the seventh young master back from her hands immediately. However, what happened next made the illusion in Grand Uncle Han's heart burst like a bubble, and his entire body turned cold. Zi Shiqing's face was cold. She didn't turn back, but her snow-white left hand suddenly grabbed backward. Nah. Her hand gesture even seemed very gentle. The whole sky seemed to darken suddenly. The earth and the sky also seemed to tremble at this moment. The delicate palm and the saber radiance collided. The palm was white and petite, like a blooming orchid. The saber was like lightning, powerful and domineering. The saber radiance was golden and exuded an insufferably murderous aura, with the comprehension of the martial saint level. One was fast and one was slow, one was big and one was small. One was like the collapse of the heavens, while the other was like the gentle ripples of spring water. But Fifth Jin's saber strike, which was far more powerful than lightning and thunder, was actually grabbed by her fair and tender palm. She grabbed that brilliant saber radiance with one hand. That formless saber gleam was actually grabbed by her as if she was grabbing a snake, holding it in midair. The saber radiance was 20 feet long, and what she grabbed was close to 1/3 of the top. This was the place where the force was the most powerful. And it was actually held in midair by her in such an unimaginable way. Fourth Jin, who was 1.5 feet away, maintained the posture of holding the saber with both hands. He stood there, unable to move. What she grabbed was the saber radiance, not the actual body of his saber. But his saber seemed to have met with an invisible and powerful obstruction in the air. He couldn't slash downwards, nor could he retract his saber. It was frozen in midair. At this moment, Zi Shiqing still didn't turn around. She didn't even turn her shoulders. Her right hand was still clasped on Lan Ruoyun's skull, and her eyes were still looking straight ahead, looking at Grand Uncle Han indifferently. But her left hand had already completely shattered, grabbed and controlled, the Saber Saint's saber. Fourth Jin almost couldn't believe what he was seeing with his eyes. The saber that was as powerful as lightning was actually grabbed like this? But then he felt that something was wrong. With a loud roar, his elemental force gushed out like a tidal wave. He was about to abandon the saber and retreat by himself to escape. But he suddenly realized that the essential chi gushing out from his energy center and into his saber body disappeared without a trace. There was no reaction at all. He wanted to throw the saber away, but at this moment, there was an invisible suction force on the saber, which stuck his palm firmly onto it. He actually couldn't throw it away. Not only couldn't he throw it away, but his body also couldn't move as his elemental force gushed out. Fourth Jin was horrified. The other party? This woman, what exactly is her cultivation? She can actually control me like this? Just as he was thinking, the 5 fingers on Zi Shiqing's left hand started to move. Her little finger flicked out, and that golden saber light shook violently. Fourth Jin screamed and felt as if his chest was hit heavily by a big hammer. There was a sharp pain in his chest and he spat out a mouthful of blood. Her ring finger flicked out again and the golden saber light vibrated. Fourth Jin's palm finally left the handle of the saber. Because at this moment, an unparalleled force suddenly came from the saber body. Both his hands let go of the saber handle instantly as if they had been electrocuted. The saber that no one was using still maintained the posture of slashing down violently and stayed in the air. But Fourth Jin's body had already rushed forward in a stumbling manner. He actually seemed to be moving on his own. He took 7 to 8 steps, turned half a circle and circled to the front of Zi Shiqing's body before stopping. His face was already full of fear. His eyes were filled with despair and his body was trembling rapidly. Zi Shiqing said lightly, "Kneel down." Fourth Jin's knees went soft, and he knelt down stiffly with a thud. At this moment, Zi Shiqing gently closed her left hand and clenched it. With a snap, the golden saber light was crushed by her in the air and disappeared without a trace. The purple gold saber that also stayed in the air was also crushed at the same time, turning into golden powder and falling down. Zi Shiqing slowly retracted her palm. She looked up at Grand Uncle Han and asked lightly, "What did you say just now? I didn't hear it clearly." Grand Uncle Han stood there like a zombie. He stared dumbfoundedly at what happened in an instant just now. He only felt that his whole body was ice cold. A gush of hot blood almost rushed to his head, and he almost fainted from the rush. At this moment, Grand Uncle Han felt a chill run down his spine, and all the way to his buttocks. This kind of cultivation, this kind of immortal-like means, it was impossible for him to do it. Not only could he not do it, among all the people he knew, there seemed to be no one who could do it. And just now, he actually asked this woman to have a one-on-one fight? A fair fight? The rules of the martial world? Have I gone crazy? At this moment, when he heard Zi Shiqing's question, he felt relieved and hurriedly said, "Nothing, I didn't say anything." He thought to himself, "You didn't hear it clearly? That's great." Zi Shiqing smiled faintly, like the blooming of spring flowers. But at this moment, those who saw this beautiful smile no longer had any lewd thoughts in their hearts. They even forcefully turned their eyes to the side, not daring to look at her. Zi Shiqing looked around and looked at the remaining 7 dumbfounded people. She ordered lightly, "The 7 of you come over. Stand in a row 30 feet in front of me. Hurry up, don't dawdle." The 7 of them were already scared out of their wits. How would they dare to disobey her now? One by one, they stood obediently behind Fourth Jin, who was kneeling on the ground. The 7 experts were really more obedient than primary school students at this moment. Zi Shiqing looked at them and smiled calmly. "I'm not a law enforcement officer of the heavens, do you know that?" Everyone nodded. Zi Shiqing said lightly, "Although I'm not a law enforcement officer, I also like to judge. Especially, I like to judge villains. Do you understand?" Everyone nodded again. Zi Shiqing pointed at Fourth Jin, who was kneeling on the ground, and said lightly, "This person actually sneaked an attack on me. In your opinion, what should he be punished for?" Everyone was dumbfounded and didn't dare to say anything. Grand Uncle Han stood at one side. His heart felt like it was being fried in oil. Endless feelings of humiliation surged into his heart. Today is Sister Zimo Xian's birthday. I wish her a happy birthday. Every year there will be a day like this. Qishi's birthday, TSK, what a coincidence. I have to say that this birthday is really chosen. According to the ancient legends, those who were born on Qixi were all naturally affectionate and infatuated. I wonder which handsome guy will be able to gain the favor and infatuation of this little sister. Everyone, you can leave your blessings in the book review and comment section. Maybe Sister Zimo Xian will be excited and touched. Thank you to Long Inue of the Alliance for his 4 blessings in the morning. Thank you to Tears of Bayan for his blessings. Thank you to Red Dust Stall for his blessings. Thank you to become the leader of the World Pride sect. Thank you everyone for your support. I will continue to explode today. I will celebrate Qixi with my explosiveness. Please vote. Chapter 923. Translator, Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. Second update. Grand Uncle Han was full of bitterness and helplessness. Marshalin Yang, the other party, was judging his own people in front of him, and even wanted his subordinates to take the initiative to judge, point out the crimes and pronounce the charges. This was already the ultimate insult. And it was very obvious that this was done deliberately with the nature of endless humiliation. But he had no other choice. The other party's cultivation was much higher than his. Facing such a terrifying cultivation, he had no way to resist at all. Even if it was a humiliation, he could only accept it. Everyone looked at each other. What crime should he be charged with? How should this be explained? Zi Sheqing's face turned cold and she said slowly, "What I hate the most in my life is those who use their power to bully women. Today I shall give a warning to this heavens." She said with a cold face, "This person is called Fourth Jin. He usually commits all kinds of evil, indulges young ruffians, bullies women, men and women. His crimes are monstrous. I announce that he will be sentenced to death." Fourth Jin, who was kneeling on the ground, raised his head desperately and said hoarsely, What right do you have to convict me like this? You are also not a law enforcement officer." He was grabbed by Zi Sheqing and was controlled like a puppet. He knelt on the ground and couldn't move at all. It was as if 10 mountains were pressing on his body at the same time. He couldn't even move a finger. Now that he heard that he was convicted, he instantly struggled desperately and actually raised his head. He knew that Zi Sheqing wanted to use him as an example. Once the evidence was conclusive, he would really be sentenced to death. At the critical moment of life and death, how could he not struggle to survive? "You are neither a law enforcement officer nor the ruler of the heavens, nor the clan master of the Lan clan. You can kill me, but why do you have to convict me before I die? You said that I commit all kinds of evil. What proof do you have?" Fourth Jin roared fiercely. Zi Sheqing looked at him majestically. "I am neither a law enforcement officer nor the ruler of the heavens, nor the clan master of the Lan clan. You are right about all these. But the only thing you don't know is, when you are not as good as me, I am the ruler in front of you. Everything about you, including your life, is decided by me. As for putting a crime on you before killing you, that's because I'm willing to do so. As for the proof that you have committed all kinds of evil deeds." Haha. Zi Sheqing laughed. "I have already convicted you. Even if I didn't, I still have proof. My words are proof." "You have no regard for human life." Fourth Jin roared. "Web, I don't know how many people you've killed for your master all these years. I don't care if you've killed 1,000 or 10,000 people. It has nothing to do with me. But your master is a pervert. You can't break up a loving couple." Zi Sheqing said coldly, "When you go down to the netherworld, you must remember that although I'm not the ruler of this heavens, in this heavens I am. It is the heavens." Fourth Jin groaned, "This is hegemony. This is tyranny. You're being unreasonable." "You're being unreasonable?" Zi Sheqing sneered. "Reason? When have you ever seen us women being reasonable?" Fourth Jin was speechless. The onlookers were also stunned. These words were truly too valiant. Even Chu Yang, who was far away, suddenly had goosebumps. All sorts of feelings welled up in his heart. "Oh my God, I finally heard a woman speaking the truth today." Everyone was speechless. Zi Sheqing said, "The few of you start to expose Fourth Jin's crimes now. I'll deal with whoever says the most complete." Everyone looked at each other. That Grand Uncle Han couldn't help but say, "Your Excellency, although Fourth Jin has offended you, isn't your way of doing things a little too much? We're all comrades in the martial world. It's no big deal to kill someone. Why do you have to humiliate us like this?" Seeing that he finally opened his mouth to plead for leniency, everyone's face was filled with excitement and hope. They all looked at him, their eyes full of pleading and trust. Zi Sheqing turned to look at him and revealed a strange smile. She said slowly, "You think that with your cultivation of first-grade supreme martial artist, you can always escape from me even if you can't defeat me. That's why you're fearless, right? You think that as a first-grade supreme martial artist, no matter where you speak, no matter who you're facing, I'll have to give you some face, right? You think that I'm a woman, and women are always soft-hearted. You only need to plead with good words, move with emotions and reason, and I'll give you a way out, right?" Grand Uncle Han was stunned. Martial Yin Yang's newest chapter, these words had truly struck a chord in his heart. He really thought so. Perhaps the seventh young master and the rest would definitely die today, but with his supreme martial artist divine senses, he would definitely be able to protect himself. The reason why he still stayed here now was that he wanted to try his best to bring a few more people back. Of course, it would be even more perfect if he could save the seventh young master from this woman's underling. No matter how strong this person was, she was still a woman, and women were always soft-hearted. She might not really kill him. As long as he persuaded her with good words and a sincere attitude, there might still be hope. Moreover, he still had another fluke thought in his heart. If he really managed to save the seventh young master, then he could start to build a relationship with her from now on. Who knows, she might become a strong helper for the clan. How many people had once become friends after being enemies? This kind of thing was not uncommon. If he were to plead as a supreme martial artist, if this woman was more sensible, she would give him a way out. Just as he was thinking, he did not expect the other party to say out all the thoughts in his heart. He could not help but blush. He smiled and said, "Even if I really think so, it seems to be understandable. Ah, Miss is a refined person, please be magnanimous and let them off. I can guarantee that after my master goes back, he will definitely turn over a new leaf and become a new man." Be magnanimous? Let them off? Zi Sheqing frowned and murmured, "Yes, miss, please be magnanimous and let them off this time." Grand Uncle Han saw that there seemed to be hope and could not help but become more energetic. Zi Sheqing frowned and looked at him as if she was thinking about the feasibility. Grand Uncle Han was delighted. "Okay." Zi Sheqing said, "Then I'll be magnanimous this time." "Thank you." Ah, Grand Uncle Han laughed happily. Zi Sheqing suddenly raised her hand and slapped hard on Grand Uncle Han's smiling face. She frowned and said, "Who allowed you to smile?" This slap was really crisp and clear, and it resounded through the whole place. This slap really came out of nowhere and was even more unreasonable. Everyone was stunned. Just now, everything was still fine, as if there was a lot of room for negotiation. But in the blink of an eye, Grand Uncle Han received such a loud slap. Everyone felt as if they had seen thunder, and they were all dizzy from the thunder. This also works? Grand Uncle Han's face quickly turned red at a speed visible to the naked eye, and then slowly swelled up. He looked at Zi Sheqing in disbelief. His lips trembled, and his eyes were filled with grief and indignation as well as disbelief. His fingers trembled. He really did not expect this. Even in his dreams he did not expect this kind of thing to happen. This matter happened so suddenly that even a first-grade supreme martial artist like him couldn't dodge in time. Zi Sheqing frowned. The next moment, slap. Another loud slap landed on Grand Uncle Han's face. Zi Sheqing frowned and said, "What are you pointing at with your finger? Who allowed you to point?" This slap was still crisp and loud, and it was in the opposite direction. Grand Uncle Han still did not avoid it. As the saying goes, a slap in the opposite direction, a slap on the left side, a slap on the right side. The others were truly struck by heavenly lightning. At this moment they were all like ducks that were scared silly. Everyone's face was filled with fear, despair, and even confusion. Oh my God, what's going on? Who in this generation had seen a supreme martial artist being slapped? And it was a slap in the opposite direction, back and forth. This first-grade supreme martial artist's face turned to the left with a slap, and then with another slap, it was slapped right again. This was really a fucking eye-opener. To be able to see a supreme martial artist being slapped, damn it. Even if they were to die today, it would be worth it. Their trip to this world was not in vain. Both sides of Grand Uncle Han's face suddenly turned into a monkey's buttocks and pig's cheeks, red and swollen, almost transparent. The next moment, Grand Uncle Han directly went mad with anger. As a supreme martial artist, in his more than 2,000 years of life, when had he ever suffered such humiliation? When had he ever been slapped? Even when he was learning martial arts, his teacher had never slapped him like this. Under the fury, Grand Uncle Han's rationality instantly collapsed. With a bang, the hair on his head directly stood up. He gritted his teeth and scolded, Bitch! How dare you hit me? Zi Shiqing looked at him strangely. How dare you? Haven't I already slapped you? Don't you feel it? How dare you scold me? Grand Uncle Han gritted his teeth as if he wanted to eat someone. He looked at her fiercely, his anger soaring to the sky. How dare you hit me? How dare you hit me? How dare you hit me again? Do you dare to hit me again? As he spoke, he approached her step by step. He looked ferocious and arrogant. He straightened his face and twisted his neck. His gaze was ferocious and indignant. Seeing that this guy actually approached her with his old face again, Zi Shiqing did not hesitate at all this time and raised her hand. Slap, slap, slap. More than a dozen slaps were thrown in a row, crisp and clear. As she slapped him, she said, "This trip out of the Black Blood Forest has really opened my eyes. There's actually such a bitch in this world. After being slapped, you actually want me to slap you again. Since you're so eager, I'll just slap you to my heart's content." And as Zi Shiqing slapped him, she asked, "Are you satisfied? Do you want more?" The sounds of slapping rang continuously. Everyone was instantly shocked. What the hell is going on? Why isn't Supreme Han fighting back? Just as they were thinking about this, they heard a heart-wrenching roar. "Ah, bitch, I'm going to kill you. Ah, ah, ah." He roared, but his voice was a little strange. It turned out that he was being beaten as he roared. When he roared at the end, his voice was trembling because of the slaps. That single "ah" was actually slapped to several different rhythms. It sounded like the rhythm of his voice was undulating and undulating. If you're satisfied, please vote for me. Thank you, everyone. Chapter 924. Grand Uncle Han felt extremely strange. Because he was rushing forward ferociously, wanting to fight with his life on the line. Now he could only wash away his humiliation by fighting. No matter if he won or lost. His chest was about to explode from anger. But no matter how he rushed, he was still running in circles on the spot even though he clearly felt that his speed was as fast as the wind. Zi Shiqing was just standing there, close to him, but he felt that she was far away from him. No matter how he rushed, he couldn't reach her. But the other party's slaps on his face were like a storm. The sounds of slaps mixed together into a pleasant sound, which actually had the rhythm of music. Grand Uncle Han rushed for a long time, and his face had been slapped countless times. Finally he came to his senses. Could this be the legendary 10,000 miles in an inch? This was a secret technique of heaven and earth that only a mid-stage supreme martial artist could comprehend. The so-called 10,000 miles in 1 inch space was the use of a godly technique to create a unique domain. No matter what your cultivation was, as long as you were trapped in this domain, then even if you ran for a lifetime, you might not be able to escape from this 10,000 miles in 1 inch space. Within the 10,000 miles in an inch, one could usually travel a long distance with a single step. But once this realm was displayed, even if you ran for 10,000 miles, you could only run in circles on the spot. Grand Uncle Han broke out in a cold sweat, and his mind also became clear. He screamed and spat out a mouthful of blood. Suddenly he turned around and was about to escape. He had already lost today. If this continued, not only would the 7th young master and the rest die, but he would also die here. Thinking of this, he immediately ran for his life. He turned around, but he forgot that he was still within the domain of the 10,000 miles in an inch. Therefore, even though he turned around and ran, he still stopped there without moving. Zi Shiqing frowned. What? Have you had enough fun in the front? Now you want to change to the back? Alright, then I'll fulfill your wish. She lifted her leg and kicked him like a storm. In the eyes of the onlookers, this Grand Uncle Han was holding his face up and getting beaten up. But he was still not satisfied. He even turned around and raised his buttocks to receive the other party's huge kicks. So everyone fainted. We've been with Supreme Martial Artist Han for so many years, but we've never heard of him having such a bad habit. What's going on? It was impossible for someone to be addicted to being beaten up, right? This was too ridiculous. However, Zi Shiqing gave a reasonable explanation. You don't look young anymore. More than 1,000 years old? 1,800 years old, right? No one has beaten you up for so many years. Do you feel uncomfortable? Now that you've been beaten up by me, have you found the right feeling? You found that this feeling was so fresh and unforgettable, so you made me hit you again and again? Have you had enough? If you're done, then get out. I'm tired from kicking you, Zi Shiqing said. As he spoke, his feet were merciless. The pitiful supremacy Han wanted to go out, but how could he? He could only stand up and take the kick while shouting and cursing in grief. His previous demeanor had long since disappeared. Everyone's eyebrows twitched as they watched. It was too bloody. A dignified supreme martial artist was beaten into a bloody pulp just like that. Moreover, he didn't even fight back. Today's matter was really strange. Moreover, as Zi Sheqing beat up supreme martial artist Han, she controlled 4th Jin and Lan Ruoyun at the same time and monitored the other 7 people to prevent them from escaping. She could be said to be multitasking. Moreover, her divine senses were still far away, paying attention to the situation of Wei Wuyan and his disciple. Finally, supreme martial artist Han's cursing gradually weakened. Zi Sheqing kicked him into the air and punched him in the chest. With a bang, supreme martial artist Han flew far away. He twitched twice on the ground and lost consciousness. Zi Sheqing had already scattered his cultivation. Chu Yang, who was at the side, knew that this meant that she had played enough. She didn't want to drag on any longer. He looked at the others coldly. "You guys don't have any other hopes, right?" The 7 of them nodded repeatedly, their faces full of fear. They couldn't beat her. They couldn't escape. Even a dignified supreme martial artist had ended up in such a state. Who else would dare to cause trouble? Zi Sheqing ordered. "As for 4th Jin, execute him now. The 7 of you are in charge of executing him. You, the 2 of you, execute him. You supervise the execution. You, the 4 of you, observe the execution. 315 cuts, a piece of flesh with each cut. If he dies after 315 cuts, the 7 of you will be executed together." Zi Sheqing said lightly. The 7 of them were instantly dumbfounded. Isn't this too vicious? Chu Yang was a little impatient. This big sister had stayed in the Black Blood Forest for too long. It seemed that she was too lonely. She actually dilly-dallied for so long just to catch these few bad guys. He said lazily, "Forget it, don't torment them. Quickly execute them. Let's hurry on with our journey." Zi Sheqing looked back and smiled. She said, "I didn't want to torment them. Just like what they said, it's no big deal to kill them. However, I have never tolerated those who bully men and tyrannize women. I must use the cruelest means to torture them to death. Even if it's reincarnation, I must make them not dare to be evil." Chu Yang sighed deeply. Chu Lura clenched her fists and said, "Sister Zi, I support you." Although Chu Lura was young, she also understood how harmful such people were to women. She had always hated them. Zi Sheqing said lightly, "Chu Yang, you're a man. You'll never know how much women hate such people who kidnap women. How many women's happiness was destroyed in their hands. Not only do they kidnap people in order to prevent future troubles, they often eliminate the source of trouble. They let this family of innocent people die an unnatural death just because the woman is beautiful. But can it be a woman's fault if she's beautiful? Having a beautiful face is a gift from the heavens. But because of these scumbags, it became the root of the destruction of her family." Zi Sheqing said lightly, "So when I see such people, I must kill them. Killing one of these people can save countless women, including their family members." Chu Yang was suddenly enlightened. "So you purposely followed me with your real appearance to lure these perverts out one by one and kill them one by one?" Zi Sheqing smiled and nodded. "Chu Yang, don't think that this is committing a sin by killing people. Those who have evil thoughts because of my appearance all deserve to die. You're enforcing justice on behalf of the heavens by killing them. This is not only not a sin but also an endless merit. The more people you kill, the more women will have happy families because of you. Do you understand?" Chu Yang was silent for a long time. Then he let out a long breath. "I understand. This may be the redemption of conscience. It also weakens the inner demons to a certain extent. Because I'll feel that I've done a good thing. My heart will naturally be open and above board, and I won't fear the heavens and earth." Zi Sheqing's eyes were full of admiration. "Yes, this is a kind of spiritual cultivation. I didn't expect you to understand my meaning so quickly." Chu Yang smiled. "Since this is the case, I'll enforce justice on behalf of the heavens." Zi Sheqing laughed. "You still think that I'm too slow? Fine, I'll let you handle it." As she said, she moved quickly. With a few slaps, all the Lan clan's experts were hit by her palm. This slap broke their bones and destroyed their cultivation. Chu Yang went forward with his sword. One slash, and killed all these people cleanly. If he let Zi Sheqing do it, it would take a long time. Chu Yang didn't want to wait. With one slash, 4th Jin's eyes were full of despair, and he slowly fell to the ground. After this slash, his body actually shrank slowly and became a pile of white bones, which then dissipated with the wind. Calamity sword, devouring the energy of living beings. These people were definitely going to die, and there were no outsiders here. Besides, The weakest of these people were monarchs, and there was even a supreme martial artist here. To the Calamity Sword, this was a huge amount of spiritual energy. It would be a pity to waste it. So, Chu Yang used the devouring power of the Calamity Sword without any hesitation. He devoured all the life essence of these experts and turned it into nutrients for the Calamity Sword. Zi Shiqing frowned slightly. She looked at the corpses turning into white ashes under Chu Yang's sword. She seemed to be deep in thought. When the sword pierced into Supreme Martial Artist Han's throat, Chu Yang sighed slightly. So what if he was a first-grade Supreme Martial Artist after 2,000 years of cultivation? With one slash of his sword, everything turned into nothingness. It was as if he had never existed in this world. Everything was like the wind. The last one to be killed was of course Lan Ruoyun. Lan Ruoyun had already turned into a pile of mud without Zi Shiqing destroying his cultivation. When he saw Chu Yang coming over, he repeatedly shouted, "You! Don't come over, don't kill me. I'm the 7th master of the Lan clan, you. If you kill me, the Lan clan won't let you off. I beg you. Spare my life." In the end he actually shouted loudly for help. Chu Yang frowned. He was very surprised. Which one of the princes of the big clans that he had seen wasn't scheming and didn't show their emotions on their faces? Yishiu, Li Badian, Meng Se. What kind of outstanding characters were they? Only such characters were fit to be called the princes of the big clans. But why was this Lan Ruoyun of the Lan clan so gutless? Such a cowardly person who bullied the weak and feared the strong? How did he become the 7th master of the Lan clan? Are you fit to be the master of a big clan? Chu Yang looked at him with disgust. Looking at you, I'm really disappointed in this big clan. Lan Ruoyun cried and said, "How would I know? Since I was born, I've been designated as the 7th master of the Lan clan. I don't have the final say in this matter?" Chu Yang looked at him coldly. "How old are you?" "I'm 27. Lan Ruoyun looked at him timidly. "How many girls have you defiled all these years? Tell me the truth." Chu Yang glared and shouted. Lan Ruoyun's mind was subconsciously controlled. He said as if he was sleep-talking, "I really can't remember clearly. About 200 to 300. As he said, he actually revealed an expression of reminiscence. He actually laughed and said, "What I like the most is to snatch beautiful girls and do it in front of their husbands." Before he finished speaking, Chu Yang had already exploded because of this sentence of his. A surge of anger instantly rushed to his head. He shouted, "Bastard!" His long sword slashed down fiercely. Chapter 925. Chu Yang now really felt that, as Zi Shiqing said, it was too easy to kill such a scumbag. He should really let such a person suffer the cruelest torture in the world before he died. Only then would he be considered to have deserved it. Even so, it would only relieve a little of his hatred. Lan Ruoyun's mind was controlled by Chu Yang. Whatever he said under such circumstances was definitely the truth. And it was definitely the most straightforward reaction in his heart. So obscene, so shameless. Looking at this obscene smile, Chu Yang's heart was filled with fury. He slashed down with his sword. Starting from his feet, Lan Ruoyun rolled around on the ground and screamed miserably incessantly. "I will kill your father, your mother, your ancestors, and everyone who is protecting you. I will kill them one by one." Chu Yang roared, "Your whole family is scum, scum, scum? What kind of clan was a big clan? What kind of people were in it? They were all experts with powerful divine senses. How could Lan Ruoyun's family not know that he had done such a heinous thing? How could his parents not know? How could his old ancestors not know?" Chu Yang would never believe it. Even if he said that the other higher-ups of the Lan clan didn't know about this, no one in the entire heavens would believe him. It was too ridiculous. Since they knew about it, they didn't stop it and even let such an obscene person be the 7th Duke. It was obvious what kind of attitude the Lan clan had. At this moment, Chu Yang had already made a vow in his heart. No matter what other clans do, I will definitely exterminate the Lan clan. When he made this decision, he didn't even consider that Lan Meixian of the Lan clan was his mother's teacher. Lan Ruoyun's moans gradually weakened. Chu Yang raised his sword and was about to end his life. "Wait." Zi Shiqing stopped him. "What?" Chu Yang turned back and asked. "You can't kill him." Zi Shiqing frowned and looked at the black line that gradually appeared between Lan Ruoyun's eyebrows. She said seriously, "If you kill him, you will be in big trouble and your identity will be exposed." "What?" Chu Yang asked curiously. "There's no one around here, so what if I kill him? No one will know." "Look at his forehead. That black line is very strange. As far as I know, this black line is a kind of supreme divine sense. The person who cares about this person the most has spent a lot of effort to plant a root in his body using the power of his divine sense. If he dies, this black line will appear on the face of the person who killed him at the same place between the eyebrows. Moreover, the supreme martial artist who left behind this will know immediately. Zi Sheqing said, "This is the secret technique of the heavens. Double soul connection, one heart for 10,000 miles. Looks like this little one's identity isn't simple." Chu Yang snorted coldly, "So what if it's troublesome? Could it be that he spared this bastard's life because he was afraid of trouble? This is impossible." Zi Sheqing blinked her eyes. "Carry him and follow me. Don't let him die. Let's find Wei Wuyan while we're at it." Chu Yang didn't know what he was up to. He could only grab Lan Ruoyun and follow him. Zi Sheqing carried Chu Lur on her back and led the way in front. Chu Yang followed all the way. When they came to the outside of a forest, Zi Sheqing let out a strange long howl. Suddenly there was a commotion in the forest. Not long after, a large pack of greenback wolves swarmed in. "Throw him in." Zi Sheqing twisted her mouth. "Ah, I see. This is a good idea. Let that supreme martial artist come and find trouble with these wolves." Chu Yang laughed loudly. He grabbed Lan Ruoyun and threw him out into the pack of wolves. When the pack of wolves smelled the blood, they howled and rushed up. Lan Ruoyun only had time to let out a scream before he was dismembered by the pack of wolves. A black line rose from Lan Ruoyun's corpse and wedged itself into the head of the wolf at lightning speed. That wolf seemed to be very uncomfortable. It actually turned around dizzily and ran away with the pack of wolves with its tail between its legs. Chu Yang said with some regret, "It's a pity that there are no powerful 10th or 11th grade spirit beasts nearby. Otherwise, after throwing them in, they can create some trouble for the Lan clan." Zi Sheqing said, "Powerful spirit beast. Originally there was a human-faced spider here. But it was too disgusting for me to take, so I chased it away." Chu Yang laughed dryly. "Now the inner core and poisonous pill of that human-faced spider are with me." "Killed by you?" Zi Sheqing's gaze was very strange. "No, it's Wei Wuyan." As Chu Yang said, he explained the situation at that time. Zi Sheqing actually laughed. "Your luck is really not bad." The two of them walked quickly. This time, they carefully avoided the people who were searching the mountain and went straight to the place where Wei Wuyan and his disciple were hiding. Because the people who were searching the mountain were getting closer and closer to that place. If they were delayed any longer, Wei Wuyan and his disciple might really die. After walking a few hundred feet forward, there was a cliff in front of them. Zi Sheqing stopped, pointed to the opposite side of the cliff and said, "Wei Wuyan and his disciple are over there. That side is full of vines and the entire cave entrance is blocked. It's hard to see with the naked eye here." Chu Yang sighed. Old Wei's generation is really not having it easy. Zi Sheqing was silent for a while and said, "His master is indeed irresponsible, but Wei Wuyan is a rare good man. But he's too pedantic. Such a person will suffer a lot in the martial world." Chu Yang nodded in agreement. The two of them were about to go down when they suddenly heard rapid sounds coming from afar. It seemed that many people were rushing towards this place. The two of them bent down at the same time and quickly moved sideways. They flashed out of the path and the cliff, and hid in the grass that was more than 10 feet high. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. People were constantly flying towards this place. Not long after, there were already close to 30 people. With a few swoosh sounds, 4 figures leaped onto a big tree and stood at the top of the tree to be on guard. A clanging sound was heard, followed by the fragrance of tea. The two of them were talking and laughing as they walked towards this place. These two people really knew how to enjoy themselves. They were actually making tea in this wilderness. A smiling voice asked very softly, "Brother Yi, did you discover anything on your side?" Once this person spoke, his voice, tone and the confidence and magnanimity of everything being under his control reminded Chu Yang of Diwu Qingru. Then another flirtatious voice sounded. "Oh, how annoying. Brother Zhuge, if you didn't discover anything on your side, how would I discover anything on my side?" The hair on Chu Yang's body stood on end as this voice resounded. Then an image of a laughing woman appeared in his mind. The third Duke of the Yi clan. The Duke of Rochang Yishiu. So it was this transvestite who had come. The person from the Yi clan was actually the Duke of Rochang, one of the 3 dukes. What conditions did that Lang Yilong promise to make the Yi clan send out such an important person? Seeing Chu Yang's strange expression, Zi Sheqing asked via telepathy, "You know this person?" "This is the 3rd Duke of the Yi clan, the Duke of Rochang Yishiu," Chu Yang replied via telepathy. "This is really going to kill me." Zi Shiqing silently rolled up half of her sleeves. She said via telepathy, "Look." Chu Yang looked over and saw a dense layer of goosebumps on Zi Shiqing's snow-white arms. For a moment he almost laughed out loud. "This is too disgusting. This should be a man, right?" Zi Shiqing frowned. Chu Yang could even clearly see that the hair on Zi Shiqing's neck had stood up. This was enough to show how much of a shock this Duke Yi Shiyu had given her. Chu Yang laughed secretly in his heart. For Yi Shiyu to be able to scare someone of Zi Shiqing's cultivation to such an extent, it was enough to show how powerful his charm was. No one in the heavenly layer could compare to him. If Yi Shiyu knew about this, he would definitely be very proud. That Duke Zhuge, on the other hand, was very calm. He smiled lightly and said, "I really didn't expect that this search for Supreme Martial Artist Icy Snow would actually be so troublesome, even though we had already obtained accurate information. Brother Yi, these days you've been eating and sleeping in the open. Your beautiful face has now become somewhat haggard." "Boo-hoo-hoo. I'm so annoying. You're so annoying, Zhuge. I hate it when people bring up this issue, but you just have to keep talking about it. I hate you so much, humph." Yi Shiyu pouted. He twisted his waist, tilted his buttocks and sat facing the outside. Then he took out a small mirror from his bosom and looked at his haggard face in the mirror. He sighed bitterly. "What should I do? What should I do? I'm really haggard. My pitiful countenance. Boo-hoo, I really shouldn't have come out this time. Those guys just had to send me, humph. Next time I won't listen to them. Whoever wants to come out can come out. Sigh, my pitiful countenance." As he said, he took out a box of flour from his bosom. There was even a comb, face powder, eyebrow pencil and meticulously touched up his makeup. Zhuge smiled faintly. "Brother Yi, you're really vain." This guy's voice was calm and elegant. He was not surprised by Yi Shiyu's unusual actions. It could be seen that his composure and self-cultivation were outstanding. Yi Shiyu twisted his waist like a snake and said shyly, "Ayaya, us girls are different from you guys. How can we not be vain?" As he said, he sighed faintly. "I'm so tired, so tired. Zhuge, can you help me massage my shoulders? Can you?" Zhuge smiled bitterly. "Brother Yi, please spare me. You know that I'm a clean freak." Yi Shiyu instantly pouted and stomped his feet. "What do you mean you're a clean freak? Am I very dirty? Am I very dirty? Zhuge, tell me, tell me, tell me, tell me, tell me. If you don't tell me clearly today, I'll crawl into your bed tonight." He stomped his feet, twisted his waist and shook his buttocks. He was very active. Zhuge could still face him calmly, but Chu Yang, who was in the bushes, was about to faint. What a monster. What a monster. How can there be such a weirdo in the world? It's really unbearable. Chu Yang really did not know how Zhuge could hold himself back. Chu Yang praised in his heart. People from the Zhuge clan are indeed different from others. He's so small and calm. He's almost as good as Diwu Qingru. Chapter 926. I can't take it anymore. Zi Shiqing secretly transmitted her voice. Her beautiful face actually turned pale. Every time I hear this voice, my whole body trembles. My scalp tightens, wrinkles and goes numb. This powerful person who had traversed tens of planes had a look of lingering fear. I've been wandering for tens of thousands of years. I've never been afraid of anyone. But this Duke Rochang really makes me feel fearful from the bottom of my heart. He can kill a supreme martial artist with just his mouth. Disgusting. Zhuge smiled gently and said, "Brother Yi, let's talk about serious matters." Yi Shiyu twisted his waist and pouted. Zhuge finally shuddered and his lips turned green. "Brother Yi, if you continue to be like this, I won't say anything." Yi Shiyu obviously didn't care. He raised his face and said with a hidden bitterness, "But are you really going to turn a blind eye to my feelings for you?" Zhuge gritted his teeth and finally couldn't take it anymore. He used a voice that was so gentle that it could kill people to say, "Brother Yi, how can I not know your feelings for me? It's just that I'm in the secular world, how can I not care about what others think of me? And you and I are both brothers of big clans. But since you've said so, I'll also express my opinion. How about this, if you can convince the Yi clan, I'll marry you. As the saying goes, 3 flat pieces are not as round as 1 round, ha." This time, it was Yi Shiyu who couldn't take it anymore. All the hair on his body stood up and he jumped up. He gritted his teeth and said, "Scram! You pervert." This was a loud scolding, but it was a man's voice. Zhuge laughed out loud, almost to the point of tears. "You pervert. You use such means to make fun of others every day. Today I'll let you have a taste of it." Yi Shiyu looked at him angrily for a long time. Finally he burst out laughing. He sat back down. Zi Sheqing, Chu Yang and Chu Lur, who were in the grass, were completely speechless. If not for the fact that the two of them finally started to talk about serious matters, the three of them would have fainted. At the same time, Chu Yang was also full of admiration in his heart. Zhuge Jin is indeed worthy of being a person from a clan of wise men. This move of giving others a taste of their own medicine is extremely beautiful. Even a thick-skinned person like Yi Shiyu felt his hair stand on end and he flew into a rage out of humiliation. It seemed like a joke, but it was actually a confrontation between the two dukes of the two great clans. Yi Shiyu was currently in a disadvantageous position. This was because his best disgusting method had been countered by an even more disgusting method. Chu Yang thought to himself, I wonder what rank this Zhuge is in the Zhuge clan? If such a person was not ranked first in the Zhuge clan, then how scheming was the first duke of the Zhuge clan? How terrifying was that? Chu Yang thought again. How is this Zhuge Liang compared to Diwu Qingro? After thinking about it, he still felt that Zhuge was slightly inferior. This was because Diwu Qingrou's expression would never change no matter what. As for Zhuge Liang, no matter if it was because of his method or because he couldn't control it, his expression would always change. Zhuge said, Brother Yi, law enforcement master Lang has been chasing after Hong Wuliang for hundreds of years. This time he obviously received accurate news that Hong Wuliang is here. But, why didn't he do it himself? Or let the people from the interrogation hall do it? Instead, he wants to borrow the power of the three great clans. What do you think? Yi Shiyu's eyebrows twitched. He said faintly, It must be because the law enforcement master of the interrogation hall has something on those old fellows in the clans. That's why they have no choice but to do things for him? Of course. Zhuge rolled his eyes and said, Of course it's because he has something on them. But everyone knows about the feud between Lang Yilang and Hong Wuliang. This time he didn't do it himself. This matter is too suspicious. I'm talking about Lang Yilang's motive, not the reason why he instigated us. A rare frown appeared on Yi Shiyu's face. He pondered deeply and said, There are indeed many things that the law enforcement masters can use against us big clans. But, it's always been like this for generations. Although the law enforcement masters are powerful, they may not be able to completely suppress the big clans. But this time, the elders immediately agreed to Lang Yilang's suggestion. This in itself is very suspicious. Zhuge nodded. That's right. As for Lang Yilang not doing it himself, it's definitely not because he's embarrassed. Yi Shiyu analyzed calmly. Of course. Zhuge didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Lang Yilang caused a huge commotion at Hong Wuliang's wife's funeral back then. The two of them are enemies. Zhuge analyzed calmly. Later on, Lang Yilang killed Hong Wuliang's friends wantonly. The two of them met on the battlefield and became sworn enemies. Regardless of whether it's Lang Yilang or Hong Wuliang, as long as they received news of the other party, they would immediately rush over. Their lifelong ambition is to kill the other party personally. But this time, even though Hong Wuliang's whereabouts are known, Lang Yilang didn't do it. Zhuge said, There must be a conspiracy behind this. Yi Shiyu was stunned. It can't be that sinister, right? Your Zhuge clan always likes to associate everything with conspiracies. I really can't stand you guys. Zhuge said, I think there are two possibilities why Lang Yilang didn't do it. The first possibility is that after so many years of disappearance, Hong Wuliang's cultivation is no longer what it used to be. Lang Yilang had already come to look for Hong Wuliang but left after suffering a huge loss. That's why we were mobilized. Frowning, Yi Shiyu didn't speak. After a long while he said, That can't be. Zhuge was also silent for a moment before he said, The first possibility is also the most unlikely. As for the second possibility, it's that Lang Yilang is at a critical juncture now. He can't split himself. Yi Shiyu put away his feminine demeanor. His eyes lit up and he lowered his voice. You're saying, he's about to advance to third-grade supreme martial artist? And he's currently breaking through the bottleneck? Zhuge looked at him strangely and smiled. Brother Yi, are you testing me? Yi Shiyu blinked his eyes and laughed. Zhuge snorted and said, Lang Yilang was already a third-grade supreme martial artist 270 years ago. Although this is top secret. I know what you mean the moment you ask. Brother Yi, you actually dare to speak like this in front of the Zhuge clan. I really admire your narrow-mindedness. Having his thoughts exposed, Yi Shiyu instantly reverted to his old ways. He stomped his feet in embarrassment, twisted his waist and winked at Zhuge. You're so annoying, Zhuge snickered. Both dukes had their own thoughts. Even though it was a conversation like this, they were both scheming. They were both digging holes for each other. Yi Shiyu deliberately said third grade. If the Zhuge clan didn't know, Zhuge would naturally report this news back. In that case, the Zhuge clan's analysis of Lang Yilang would be greatly discounted. If there were any changes in the future, the Zhuge clan would suffer heavy losses because of this misjudgment. At the very least, it would affect one party's plan. And Zhuge's subsequent pointing out was equivalent to spoiling another one of Yi Shiyu's schemes. The one who was truly at a loss now was Yi Shiyu. Because according to Zhuge's analysis, Lang Yilang might be breaking through to 4th grade supreme martial artist. This piece of news was of utmost importance to the big clans. But was this piece of news true or false? Should they report it or not? If they reported it, what if it was false? If they didn't report it, what if it was true? If they took it seriously and adjusted their plans to deal with Lang Yilang, then they might end up doing something like shooting a stone at a mosquito. It would be a waste of energy, and this would lead to the weakening of their strength in other areas. 4th grade supreme martial artist. How could those who paid attention to him be mediocre? The two dukes each had their own schemes. On the surface they appeared to be harmonious, but deep down they were at loggerheads and plotting against each other. Because everyone knew that the 10,000-year cycle of reincarnation was coming. Once the Tribulation Sword Master appeared, the law enforcement officers would still be biased towards him even though they appeared to be fair on the surface. Once the Tribulation Sword Master appeared, it meant that the honeymoon period between the big clans and the law enforcement officers had come to an end. Even if there was a huge battle, it wasn't impossible. Every 10,000-year cycle of reincarnation, there would be a huge battle between the big clans and the law enforcement officers. How could they not guard against such a thing? Moreover, it had already been more than 1,000 years. Where's that bastard? Yi Shiyu couldn't figure out what was going on, so he could only change the topic. As he spoke, he revealed an undisguised look of disgust. That bastard is flirting with women. Zhuge snorted and said, then, when I used the heaven and earth magical hearing to detect the movements within a radius of a few hundred miles, I happened to hear that bastard talking. What was he talking about? Yi Shiyu asked with great interest. Zhuge took out a strange-shaped metal ear-like thing and said, activating the heaven and earth magical hearing once consumes too much energy. I only heard a few sentences and then I heard Lan Ruoyun say, Miss, why don't we fight? Let them all leave? Do you want to fight on the bed? Or should we fight here? Or in the water? Or on the tree? Zhuge actually imitated Lan Ruoyun's voice to perfection. Even the lust in his voice was imitated in its original way. Now that bastard is probably doing that, fighting? Zhuge said disdainfully. Yi Shiyu was furious. That bastard is flirting with our weak women again. What else did he say? Do you know how much energy it consumes for me to activate the heaven and earth magical hearing? Just hearing a few sentences already disgusted me. Zhuge said angrily, do you think that I'm using the heaven and earth magical hearing to listen to the bed? Yi Shiyu was also furious. That bastard is flirting with beautiful women, and you actually didn't do anything when you heard it? You let him do whatever he wants and cause great physical and mental harm to us weak women? Zhuge snorted. I want to do something, but didn't your clan warn you this time? Don't offend Lan Ruoyun? Don't you know who's behind him? Yi Shiyu was still angry. But I feel angry when I hear such words as if he's raping me. Raping you? He's raping you? Zhuge finally spat out a mouthful of tea and coughed continuously. Chapter 927. After scolding for a while, Yi Shiyu also became dejected. I feel disgusted when I see that bastard Lan Ruoyun. But the old monster behind that bastard is indeed not easy to deal with. He sighed and said, didn't this bastard's legs get broken by Meng Se previously? How did he recover so quickly? How depressing. Zhuge smiled and said, the last time this fellow tried to kidnap a girl, Meng Se encountered him. After learning of his identity, he still broke his legs. However, because of these two legs, the family paid a price of 10,000 purple crystals. Meng Se was also grounded by the family and is not allowed to leave. Yi Shiyu said with a face full of reverie, Meng Se? He's a real man. Such a man is a good match for us girls. The corner of Zhuge's mouth twitched. Chu Yang and Zi Shiqing exchanged glances. It turned out that this Lan Ruoyun had a big backer behind him. No wonder he could be the 7th Duke of the Lan clan. Yi Shiyu said with great interest, Brother Zhuge, that old monster is already 1,000 years old. Why does he treasure this bastard Lan Ruoyun so much? Zhuge looked at him strangely. You don't know? Yi Shiyu was startled. What do I know? Zhuge smiled strangely and looked left and right. Then he moved his mouth closer and said in a low voice, I heard. Remember, it's only hearsay. That old monster's yin and yang were disrupted more than 20 years ago and he almost went mad. He rushed out from his seclusion and raped Lan Ruoyun's mother. Who would have thought that with one shot Lan Ruoyun was born? Say, this old thing has never been married his whole life and he actually has a child at 1,000 years old. How much does he treasure this child? Yi Shiyu opened his mouth wide and his eyes were full of shock. His voice trembled as he said, He. He's already 1,000 years old and his spear skills are still so accurate. Keep quiet. Zhuge shouted. Too shocking. I'm so shocked. Yi Shiyu patted his chest with one hand and looked as if he was still in shock. Damn it. He's too strong. He's so old and he's still so good. This kind of person is definitely a good match for us girls. Not only was he too shocked, Chu Yang and Zi Sheqing in the bushes were also too shocked. The two of them were so shocked that they almost lost their ability to speak. There was actually such a thing. No wonder this Lan Ruoyun was so unbridled. It turned out that he had a father who was 7,000 years old. Then Chu Yang thought of the twin soul connection, one heart for 10,000 miles on Lan Ruoyun. He knew how much his supreme martial artist father treasured him. No wonder, fortunately he didn't kill him. If that was the case he would let his 7,000-year-old father go and settle the score with that pack of wolves. Thinking of this, Chu Yang immediately took pleasure in his misfortune. Right at this moment, someone hurriedly came over to report. Third young master, we found the cave where Hong Wuliang is hiding. It's just below this cliff, close to the middle. Yi Shiyu and Zhuge were both stunned. Neither of them moved. Zhuge chuckled and said, Brother Yi, this is a good opportunity for your Yi clan to befriend Law Enforcement Master Lang. Brother Yi, please give the order. I'll support you. Yi Shiyu laughed. How would I dare to steal Brother Zhuge's limelight? Brother Zhuge, it's better if you give the order. The sooner we understand this matter, the sooner we can return. This is the perfect opportunity for me to witness the Zhuge clan's ingenuity and ingenuity. Both of them knew that this battle was extremely dangerous. The other party was only one person, but he had the cultivation of a supreme martial artist. Although there were quite a number of people from their clans, and their strength was far greater than the other parties, it was absolutely impossible for them to take down the other party without paying a heavy price. At such a time the price was usually a huge loss. Such a loss, of course, should be pushed away as much as possible. No, you should do it. No, you should do it. Both of them had a cordial smile on their faces, as if they were confiding in each other wholeheartedly. Both of them insisted on giving this great credit to the other party. After a long while both of them sighed at the same time. It's a pity that Lan Ruoyun, that lecherous hothead, isn't here. Otherwise we would have saved a lot of effort, Yi Shiyu said sadly. I don't know where that bastard has gone to. Zhuge agreed. Although the two of them were disgusted by Lan Ruoyun leading the team here, they also felt that it was actually not bad to have such a straightforward person in front of them, who would rush forward excitedly after being instigated a little. At least they could avoid their own losses. They didn't expect that at such a critical juncture, the people from the Lan clan actually went missing altogether. The two of them argued for a long time and finally reached an agreement. Zhuge would be in command and Yi Shiyu would be on the sidelines to assist. The people from the Yi clan and Zhuge clan would be under Zhuge's command, and they would be paired according to their strength. Such a battle was simply torture, but the two of them were very calculative. They weren't calculative about who would do the work, but they were calculative about how much strength they could preserve in the future battle. After making up their minds, Zhuge Yun immediately started to give out orders. This is a cliff and we don't know how long it is on both sides, so there's definitely no exits on both sides. This cave is at the bottom of the cliff, and it's too high to go up a few thousand feet. So there's definitely no way out. If there's a way out, it must be at the back of the mountain. Third elder, you bring a few people to the back of the mountain first. You must block all possible exits. Once you discover someone escaping from there, stop him immediately and send out a signal immediately. Even if you have to risk your life, you can't let him escape. Zhuge Yun blocked the escape route of Wei Wuyan and his disciple. Yes. A man in blue cupped his hands and accepted the order. With a wave of his hand, he brought a few people with him and left like a whirlwind. When you reach there, report back immediately when you're ready, Zhuge instructed. Yes. This third elder had already left without a trace. Brother Yi, send a few people. When I give the order, cut down all the vines on the mountain wall. Zhuge said, if there's such a thing, there's definitely a mechanism. We don't know the secret behind it, but Hong Wuliang definitely knows and he can use it flexibly. Even if there's no mechanism with these vines as stepping stones, he'll definitely be faster than us in this place where he's lived for a long time. Cut it down first. Okay. Yi Xiu agreed readily this time. He immediately arranged the manpower. The other party is in the cave and we're not familiar with the terrain. It's easy to defend and hard to attack, and we don't know if there's a water source and how much food there is. So, when the entrance of the cave is exposed, we'll first light a fire, roll up the thick smoke, mix it with poison and pour it into the cave. Okay. Chu Yang, who was in the bushes, secretly praised, "Brilliant plan." Once we're sure that the thick smoke can fill the cave to the point that nothing can be seen, the few supreme martial artists elders will immediately rush into the cave. Now you can use a black cloth to cover your eyes and adapt to the darkness in a dark place, Zhuge ordered decisively. Yes. Now, when we've confirmed that the third elder is in position, we'll immediately take action. Zhuge finished the arrangement and turned to look at Yi Xiu. Brother Yi, do you have anything else to add? Yi Xiu said with some admiration. Brother Zhuge, you're very capable. I admire you very much. This was his heartfelt words. Zhuge had really thought of all aspects. Blocking the escape route, assisting the enemy, using the thick smoke, poison together. Knowing that the other party wouldn't be poisoned to the point of fainting. But he had successfully created a situation where both parties were on equal footing. Because of the smoke, both parties couldn't see anything. Although it was more dangerous to rush in and fight in such a situation, it had successfully offset part of the other party's geographical advantage. Because the other party couldn't see anything. Using a black cloth to cover one's eyes to adapt to the darkness was even more ingenious. If it wasn't for this small thing, one would definitely feel uncomfortable rushing into the dark fog from a bright place. Although this uncomfortable feeling only lasted for a short moment, it was enough for a supreme martial artist to attack 1,000 times. What would it feel like to be attacked by 1,000 times at the same time? Chu Yang dared not underestimate this Zhuge more and more. If he were to have a conflict with the Zhuge clan in the future, he might become enemies with this person. When that time came, he had to deal with him carefully. Zi Sheqing also cautiously transmitted a message to Chu Yang. This small thing, you have to be careful of his schemes. Chu Yang nodded silently. A strange bird's chirping sound came from afar, and it reverberated for a long time. Zhuge listened carefully and smiled. The third elder has already found the exit of the back mountain and has sealed it. Let's take action immediately. Yi Xiu nodded. With a twist of his buttocks, he waved his hand. Chop down those vines for me. Their figures soared up like big birds. Their black clothes seemed to cover the sunlight. With a neat flip in midair, the 4 figures transformed into 4 long rainbows that connected the heavens and the earth. These 4 people actually performed the supreme sword technique of body and sword at the same time and dashed towards the stone wall. Chu Yang didn't know what the vines were made of, but he still had to be careful. If the vines were extremely hard and couldn't be chopped off with a sword, it would be a big problem. The people from the Zhuge clan also jumped down. As they flew, they wielded their swords and sabers. Countless big trees were chopped down. Then each of them carried a big tree as big as a hill and jumped down. When the vines fell, they would immediately set them on fire. The 3 supreme martial artists stood beside the 2 dukes with their hands behind their backs. Their eyes were covered with black cloth, and they were ready to attack at any time. The situation was tense and a fight could break out at any moment. Yi Xiu laughed tenderly, and said, Brother Zhuge, let's go down too. It's too far away from here. I really want to see how Hong Wuliang, who defeated Lang Yilong in love 2,000 years ago, looks like. Zhuge smiled and nodded. With a whoosh, the 2 of them also jumped down the cliff. The 3 supreme martial artists followed closely. Finally, there was no one on this mountain wall. We should go down now. From what these people said, they don't know that Wei Wuyan's teacher has already practiced the purple crystal hand for hundreds of years. Once these people attack, they will definitely attack with all their might. I'm afraid it's too late, Chu Yang transmitted his voice. It's okay. Zi Sheqing listened attentively to the movements below. She said lightly, since you want to show kindness, you should do it at the most important moment. How to show kindness to others and let them remember it for life is also a kind of knowledge. You have to learn this. You acted when his life wasn't in danger. At most, you could only make him feel grateful to you because he hadn't had the time to feel the horror of death. Therefore, his gratitude towards you wasn't very deep. However, you acted when his life was at stake. At that time, he would have died and you would have become his second parent. Chapter 928. That's right, it's the three of us. The elder from the Zhuge clan said indifferently, Hong Wuliang, you've been holed up here for so many years that you've become dumb. Do you want to go out with us or do you want us to carry you out? Hong Wuliang chuckled and said, although I've been living in seclusion here and haven't gone out for many years, I'm not someone the three of you can handle. However, I really didn't expect that the three of you would also become Lang Yilong's lackeys. He suddenly said in a low voice, what benefits did Lang Yilang promise you? Have both the Yi clan and the Zhuge clan been caught by Lang Yilang? This isn't a good feeling, right? Aha. Yi Anren said indifferently, it's better to be caught by someone than to lose your life. With a loud roar, he charged forward with his body stretched out. The three of them attacked at the same time, forming a triangle and sandwiching Hong Wuliang. Hong Wuliang let out a loud shout and stretched out his hands. A pile of purple crystals at the side of the cave suddenly flew into his hands. He opened his mouth and took a deep breath. His skinny body suddenly swelled up and a thick purple aura was swallowed into his stomach. There were more than 1,000 purple crystals in this pile, but they were all sucked clean by him in an instant. Hong Wuliang's face turned red at once. He shouted, let's fight. He rushed forward and actually took the initiative to attack. The four of them attacked together. A figure flew over from the sky and jumped into the battle. It was Wei Wuyan. If you want to kill my teacher, you'll have to kill me first. Wei Wuyan let out a loud shout and rushed over with all his might. Yi Anren snorted and shouted, you actually dare to interfere in a battle between third-grade supreme martial artists. With a slap of his palm, a sharp whistling sound was heard. A thick fog was accurately aimed at Wei Wuyan's Wuyan sword. With a loud bang, the palm and Wuyan sword faced each other. With a loud bang, Yi Anren didn't retreat at all. There wasn't even a red spot on his palm, but Wei Wuyan flew back with his sword and crashed heavily into the stone wall. Stones from the top of the cave fell down. With a cry, he spat out a mouthful of blood. Wei Wuyan was a half-step supreme martial artist, but compared to a third-grade supreme martial artist, he was as weak as a baby. The difference between the ranks of supreme martial artists was so clear-cut. Hong Wuliang and the other two people had already started fighting. The three of them were holding back their strength so as not to cause the mountain peak to collapse. However, the howling wind was like a hurricane in the cave. In an instant there was no sound in their ears. Hong Wuliang's expression was calm and he fought steadily. It was as if he didn't see his brother being sent flying. He was already seriously injured. Although his cultivation had increased a lot over the years, it was all thanks to the purple crystal's power. If he lost the purple crystal, he would not be able to escape the torture of the purple crystal hand even if his cultivation improved by another fold. Yi Anren watched the battle with his hands behind his back. Seeing that he was not needed for the time being, he slowly walked to Wei Wuyan's side and asked, Shao, your teacher has the purple crystal hand? Who did it? Wei Wuyan snorted and laughed, who is my master's biggest enemy? Yi Anren's expression changed. Lang Yilang? Wei Wuyan sneered. It's good that you know. He didn't want to answer the other party's question at first, but upon hearing that the other party didn't seem to know the truth of this matter and didn't even know that Lang Yilang had the purple crystal hand, therefore he was naturally happy to tell him. The purple crystal hand was one of the most insidious martial arts techniques in the world, even more insidious than the hand of severing descendants. The hand of severing descendants was only targeted at young people. Generally, when one reached the supreme martial artist level, they were all old monsters who had lived for thousands of years. How would they have any thoughts of continuing their lineage? Therefore the experts weren't afraid of it. As for the purple crystal hand, it was used against experts. Unless you exceeded the supreme martial artist level and crossed the celestial realm, you could avoid it. Otherwise, even if you were a 5th-grade supreme martial artist, if you were ambushed by the purple crystal hand, you wouldn't be able to escape the fate of being accompanied by the purple crystal all day long. There would be a day when he would be bankrupt, losing both his wealth and his life. The most insidious thing about the purple crystal hand was that it wouldn't kill you on the spot. Moreover, the lifespan of an expert was very long. The purple crystal hand would accompany you for your entire life, causing you to be tortured by the purple crystal hand all the way until you died. It was one of the most insidious martial arts techniques that experts of the heavenly layer were most afraid of. As long as the Yi clan and the Zhuge clan knew about this, they would naturally be on guard against Lang Yilang. In fact, they might even secretly kill him. Although Wei Wuyan didn't understand why Lang Yilang actually didn't show up personally this time and instead asked someone from a big clan to do it, it could be considered a bad move. As for what exactly his intentions were, he definitely wouldn't hide it for Lang Yilang. So Lang Yilong has practiced the purple crystal hand. No wonder, no wonder. Yi Anren's expression was grave as he nodded slowly. He didn't know what he was thinking about. He turned to look at the battlefield and said dispassionately, "How many years has it been since your master practiced the purple crystal hand?" Wei Wuyan replied, "He has been missing for as many years as he has. If it wasn't for the purple crystal hand, who would be willing to hide? Would you?" You have a sharp tongue. Yi Anren smiled. "In that case, all these years, it has been you who has been providing purple crystals to your master?" "That's right. As his younger brother, this is what I should do," Wei Wuyan said proudly. "What a loyal and devoted disciple." Yi Anren laughed sarcastically. "Your master must have told you that he needs a large amount of purple crystals after practicing the purple crystal hand. Every day he needs purple crystals to maintain the lowest consumption, right?" Wei Wuyan said furiously, "Which one of those who has practiced the purple crystal hand isn't like this? Do I need you to tell me that?" Yi Anren smiled strangely. "Which one isn't like this? Then which one have you seen? Other than your master, who else have you seen who has practiced the purple crystal hand?" Wei Wuyan snorted. "Even if I haven't, only purple crystals can treat the purple crystal hand. There is no doubt about this." "That's right. You must have suffered a lot in order to get purple crystals for your master all these years, right?" Yi Anren's expression was strange. Wei Wuyan snorted and didn't say anything else. Thinking of the suffering he had gone through all these years, how could it be described as a lot of suffering? Back then, his wife had just given birth and was taking care of the child at home. His master urgently needed him to deliver the purple crystals, so he had no choice but to leave his wife alone at home and deliver the purple crystals to his master first. But who would have thought that it would be an eternal farewell? When he hurried back after delivering the purple crystals to his master, his beloved wife had already become a cold corpse. Even his own son had died an unnatural death. Till now he still didn't know who his enemy was. How could it be just a lot of suffering? For his master, he had sacrificed his family, his youth and all his life's efforts. But Wei Wuyan had hidden all these in his heart and never told anyone. At one side, Hong Wuliang shouted loudly, "Yi Anren, what nonsense are you talking about? Every injustice has its perpetrator and every debt has its debtor. Don't harm my brother." As he shouted, he wanted to rush over. But the two supreme martial artists were firmly restraining him. Hong Wuliang couldn't rush over and could only shout continuously. Yi Anren smiled mockingly and said, "What a righteous master and a loyal brother. Ah. It's a pity that your loyal brother has been cheated and sold by your most respected and righteous master." "Bullshit." Wei Wuyan was furious. His master's concern just now made Wei Wuyan tremble all over. In an instant, he only felt that all the suffering in his life was worth it. Seeing that Yi Anren actually wanted to slander his master, Wei Wuyan was instantly furious. "Bullshit." "Ah. Ask your master, he's right here. After getting the purple crystal hand, you can only maintain the minimum requirements and your cultivation won't improve at all. But if you want your cultivation to continue to improve after getting the purple crystal hand, you must start to use double the amount of purple crystals from the first day you get the purple crystal hand. Do you understand? Double the amount of purple crystals." Yi Anren laughed loudly and said, "Your master got the purple crystal hand all these years, but we were of the same generation back then. We've reached such a realm now, but he, a person who got the purple crystal hand, has also reached such a realm. He's really damn fast, hee. If he didn't use double the amount of purple crystals, how could he have improved?" Wei Wuyan was shouting angrily, but when he heard this, he was suddenly dumbfounded. After a long time, he shouted crazily, "Bullshit! Bullshit, bullshit." Yi Anren smiled and said, "Your master is right here. If you don't believe me, why don't you ask him directly?" Wei Wuyan didn't believe him, but he couldn't help but look at his master. Hong Wuliang was fighting. His face was red and he said deeply, "Wuyan, don't believe him. Don't you understand what kind of person I am?" Wei Wuyan said blankly, "Yes, master." He had been with Hong Wuliang for more than 1,000 years. How could he not understand his master? As soon as Hong Wuliang said this, Wei Wuyan immediately knew that Yi Anren was telling the truth. If it wasn't true, Hong Wuliang would have already stomped his feet and roared angrily. But now Hong Wuliang was explaining to him in such a heavy and serious tone. Explanation. Wei Wuyan only felt that his mind was buzzing. He suddenly remembered Chu Yang's words, "With a purple crystal hand, one's cultivation can't improve." Of course, if Chu Yang didn't finish his sentence. However, Wei Wuyan finally understood why Chu Yang wanted to say something but hesitated at that time. Chu Yang was worried that if his master improved instead and told him the truth, he would be very sad. Wei Wuyan only felt that the world was spinning. He muttered, Then my wife. Didn't she die too unjustly? If that was really the case, wouldn't the purple crystals that he had earned all these years be enough to support his master for another 700 years? If that was really the case, why would he have to rush over to deliver the purple crystals and cause his beloved wife to die? You have a wife, son. Dead. Yi Anren looked at him pitifully. Yes, Wei Wuyan said muddle-headedly. Then your wife and son didn't die unjustly at all. They deserved to die. Yi Anren laughed mockingly and said, Their existence will greatly slow down the speed at which you earn purple crystals for your master. If they don't deserve to die, who should? As if a bolt from the blue had struck his head, Wei Wuyan suddenly felt that the world had changed colors. Although Master was strict and sometimes unreasonable, he was always alone here. It was normal for him to be in a bad mood. No one could stand being alone for so many years. Therefore, after he had nothing to worry about, he decided to stay here as well. Other than earning purple crystals from missions, he would accompany his master here. And now he had actually heard such a terrifying truth. At the side, the battle between the three of them was getting more and more intense. Hong Wuyang's face was like iron. He attacked left and right and his eyes were calm and cold. The icy aura that belonged to the supreme of ice and snow lingered around his body. Although the entire cave was filled with smoke, it was also very cold. Wei Wuyan felt as if he was in a dream. Looking at his master who was moving around like lightning, he only felt that he had fallen into a nightmare that he could not wake up from. Everything he saw and heard seemed so unreal. Wei Wuyan's tears finally fell. At such a close distance, and Yi Anren had deliberately raised his voice, how could Hong Wuyang not hear him? Just a moment ago he was still explaining, but now he didn't even bother to explain. Master! Wei Wuyan cried out with heart-wrenching pain. The battle over there stopped abruptly. The two supreme martial artists of the Zhuge clan leaped back at the same time, and the three of them stood in a triangle formation. Hong Wuyang stood there in a daze. When he heard his disciple's heartbreaking cry, his body trembled, but he didn't turn back. He sighed and said, Wuyan, remember that I once told you that you must not have any thoughts of family. That's the taboo of the inner demons of martial arts cultivation. If you want to climb to the peak of martial arts, don't think about those things. Wei Wuyan's mind was buzzing and he saw stars. He said weakly, That was before my marriage. After I got married, Master. You know how much I cherish and depend on my family. I like the feeling of having a family. As he spoke, he suddenly felt a sharp pain in his heart. Gentle and virtuous wife, lively and cute son. He still remembered that as long as he went out, his wife would always stand at the door to send him off. His return date was never fixed, but every time he returned, his wife would already be at the door to welcome him. You're going out? You must be more careful. With me at home you can rest assured. Come back safe and sound. You're back? You must be tired from the journey. I'll go get some water for you to wash up. Take a nap and rest first. He still remembered when that little life was just born, lying in his arms, biting his finger and looking at him with a pair of clear eyes. That soft touch, that innocent gaze, that feeling of being connected by flesh and blood, conquered him in an instant. When he squealed and used his soft and chubby little hands that were full of fat pits to touch his face and smiled happily, he felt so satisfied and happy in his heart. He once swore that he would use his life and everything to protect his wife and his son. The oath was still beside his ears, but his lovely wife turned into a vengeful spirit. His wife lay stiffly on the ground, her face full of disbelief. She was already dead, but her eyes were still wide open in shock. Although her eyes were lifeless, he could see the shock in her eyes. His wife's eyes didn't even have time to show resentment and reluctance. What? His lively and cute son had already turned into a pile of bright red meat paste. Who was so cruel? Even a baby was not spared? He remembered that he fainted on the spot. After a long time he woke up and roared at the sky in extreme madness. From then on, besides carrying out missions to earn purple crystals, he went to the ends of the earth to look for his enemy. Ha! Looking for my enemy? Wei Wuyan suddenly laughed sadly. The four supreme martial artists looked at him. Wei Wuyan supported himself against the stone wall and stood up shakily. With his cultivation, Even if he was seriously injured and his limbs were all broken, it wouldn't be so difficult for him to stand up. But now, Wei Wuyan was like an extremely weak ordinary person who had one foot in the grave. He only felt that his limbs didn't have any strength and his heart was empty. His heartbeat was obviously so fierce and wild, but when he listened to the sound of his own heartbeat, it was as if it came from another time and space. He finally stood up and supported himself against the stone wall. With blood flowing from the corners of his mouth, he staggered 2 steps forward, looked at Hong Wuliang and asked, "Teacher, I only want to ask you one thing." Hong Wuliang let out a long sigh. Looking up, he closed his eyes and said indifferently, "Ask away." Wei Wuyan's voice was very calm. Even he himself found it strange that his voice could actually be so calm at this moment. "Teacher Er and Xiaozhan were you killed by you?" Wei Wuyan repeated the last few words several times before he finally completed his sentence. His face was pale and his body was on the verge of collapsing. But his eyes stared fiercely at his teacher without blinking. Hong Wuliang chuckled and said indifferently, "Brother Yi, my whereabouts have already been exposed because of the encirclement today. I originally thought that it was Lang Yilong, that bastard, so I didn't move and waited here for him to come in so that I could have a battle to the death with him." He smiled indifferently. "I didn't expect it to be the 3 of you who came in. There must be other people outside, right?" His younger brother Wei Wuyan was waiting for him to answer, but he was trying to change the topic. Yanran nodded. "That's right. In order to capture you, the Yi clan, Zhuge clan and Lan clan have mobilized a total of 3 supreme martial artists. The 3 of us are here, but there are 3 more outside." Hong Wuliang chuckled. "Looks like I won't be able to escape this calamity today." Yi Anren said indifferently, "Now, you indeed have nowhere to go." "Nowhere to go," Hong Wuliang murmured in an extremely low voice. He raised his head and thought silently for a while. Then he didn't speak anymore. Wei Wuyan's body trembled even more violently. He roared, "Teacher, I'm asking you a question." This sentence had already sounded like a roar. His voice had already lost its usual reverence and admiration. Hong Wuliang looked up at the sky and said softly, "I already have nowhere to go. Only death awaits me. There's no harm in telling you the truth." As he spoke, he looked at Wei Wuyan. His voice was actually very calm as he said softly, "Since you've already guessed it, what else do you want me to say?" "Guessed it? Guessed it?" Wei Wuyan murmured. His eyes were empty. Suddenly he laughed wildly. He laughed so hard that his whole body trembled. He laughed so hard that he used his hand to support himself against the wall again. He laughed so hard that big drops of tears gushed out from his eyes continuously. His laughter continued and reverberated. However, the 4 supreme martial artists present all felt an extreme misery. This laughter was indeed 100 times more miserable than crying. Wei Wuyan laughed and asked, "Just for purple crystals? Just for the purple crystals that you have to not only maintain your injuries but also improve? You want to rely on me to earn them? You think I'm earning them too slowly? Is that right? Is that right?" Hong Wuliang said lightly, "You shouldn't have slowed down the speed of earning purple crystals after you got married." He looked at his younger brother with some pity and said, "Actually, back then, I was also in a very difficult position. Wuyan, you're my only younger brother. I placed all my hopes on you. My heart ached for you. I thought very highly of you." "You were in a very difficult position? You placed all your hopes on me? You were heartless to me? You thought very highly of me?" Wei Wuyan laughed wildly. "You killed my beloved wife just because you felt heartache for me? You killed my only child just because you thought very highly of me?" Wei Wuyan's eyes widened. "Teacher, is this something you should say? Damn it, is this something a human should say?" Chapter 930. Hong Wuliang's thin face became a little distorted as he looked at his brother's joyful expression. He finally turned his head away. But then he suddenly turned back. "Wuyan, very good. You're going to fall out with me because of a woman? And at this moment of life and death?" Wei Wuyan gritted his teeth and said, "Just a woman? Just a person? That's my wife. My child. In your mouth she's just a woman?" Hong Wuliang said coldly, "Wei Wuyan, when you were at your wits' end back then, I took you in as my disciple and nurtured you carefully. I taught you all the unique skills that shocked the martial world. Have I ever asked for anything in return? I trained you from a little kid who knew nothing to the cultivation you have today. I let you shake the world with your might and make your name known to all. Have I ever asked for anything in return? Back then I traveled all over the world to find elixirs for you to cleanse your body and lay your foundation. I traveled thousands of miles through wind, frost and snow. Have I ever asked for anything in return? I was injured and needed purple crystals to treat my illness. And you were filial. I was comforted and thought that I didn't recognize the wrong person. But what about you? As Hong Wuliang spoke, he felt that he had sacrificed a lot. Suddenly he became self-righteous. What did you do? After you got married, you actually left me behind. There were a few times when the supply of purple crystals was almost cut off. You, on the other hand, only cared about your own happiness and left me alone in this desolate place. If I let them live, wouldn't I be killed by them? Hong Wuliang said hatefully. If I didn't kill them, should I have waited for myself to die from my injuries? Wei Wuyan looked at his master in a daze. At this moment he felt that this person was so unfamiliar and so disgusting. He murmured, Master, do you know? On the day of the child's 1-month birthday, I told her that when the child is 1 year old, I would send the mother and daughter here so that you can teach another grand disciple. Our whole family will be with you and serve you so that you can enjoy your old age. With you here, I'm also relieved. I'll work hard outside to earn purple crystals and come back occasionally. Our whole family will be reunited. Wei Wuyan's tears fell like rain. I have fantasized countless times about us 3 generations gathering together happily and harmoniously. I even saw you lovingly protecting the naughty child and not letting me beat him. I've thought of everything and has agreed. In the future this will be our route and our home. With the 2 of them by your side, I'm relieved. You won't be lonely. At that time the child had just turned 1 month old. And I were worried that the child would not be able to bear the pain in the cave, so we temporarily stayed outside and waited for the child to turn 1 year old. I didn't tell you because I wanted to give you a surprise. I didn't expect this surprise to become a bolt from the blue. I regret it so much. I regret it so much. Wei Wuyan's tears flowed down. He was so heartbroken. Hong Wuliang suddenly opened his mouth wide and took 3 steps back. Are you telling the truth? Wei Wuyan finally exploded and roared, I've never lied to you in my whole life. Why should I lie to you now? Do you know? After Yer was killed by you, she died with grievances. Do you know that she didn't even have time to be resentful until she died? There was only disbelief. Only disbelief. Why didn't she dare to believe it? Because she didn't expect you to kill her. She didn't even dream that the person who killed her would be the master that her husband respected the most and wanted to be filial to the most. You killed her so cruelly. Are you still a human? Are you still a human? Wei Wuyan roared. Hong Wuliang took 2 steps back helplessly and said dejectedly, Is that so? Wei Wuyan laughed miserably and muttered to himself, Funny, really funny. This world is really funny. As he laughed crazily, blood spurted out from his mouth. He was seriously injured and his mind was in a mess. But he didn't care at all and let the blood that represented the vital energy spurt out from his mouth drop by drop. After laughing for a long time, Wei Wuyan finally knelt on the ground weakly. He pressed his forehead against the ground and cried loudly. He cried and laughed as if he had already gone crazy. Little Jean, my beloved wife, my son. The enemy who killed you, I found him. I found him, Isn't it funny? Don't you think it's funny? Wei Wuyan smashed his forehead on the ground fiercely. He was so sad that his heart was about to break. On one hand, I vowed in front of your graves that I would avenge you. On the other hand, I came to the enemy who killed you to ask about your well-being and fulfill my filial piety. On the other hand, I risked my life to earn purple crystals for the enemy who killed you. You just looked at me like this from below. You looked at me being stupid. You looked at me being ordered around like a fool. You looked at me dying countless times. Didn't you feel sad down there? Didn't you feel helpless? Didn't you feel angry? Isn't this the greatest sorrow? You all died in his hands. He killed my beloved wife and my only son. He killed my happiness, cut off my hope, and let my Wei family have no descendants. But after that, I actually risked my life to serve him for more than 100 years? My beloved wife died with grievances. My child was crushed into meat paste by him. Did you see it? Did you see it? That pool of bright red meat paste, who dares to recognize that it's my child? That's actually my child. That child was actually killed by my master. And I actually lived like this for more than 100 years. Am I still human? Am I still human? Wei Wuyan suddenly raised his head. He looked horrifying and roared towards the sky. His forehead was already dripping with blood. The corners of his eyes were already cracked and blood kept flowing out. Yi Anren and the other two looked at Wei Wuliang with some disdain. None of them were good people. But it was really the first time they saw someone who wanted to kill his brother's wife and child, and cut off all his distracting thoughts to make him work for him. Not to mention all of this was caused by him. For example, you only need 1 purple crystal a day, but you insist on having 2. He forced his own disciple to risk his life to earn purple crystals, and he actually complained that his disciple's wife was a hindrance to him. What kind of logic was this? At this moment, outside the cave, Zi Sheqing was also recounting to Chu Yang what had happened in the cave. Her cultivation was powerful. It was easy for her to eavesdrop on the movements here from such a long distance. Chu Yang was filled with righteous indignation. He was dumbfounded. It's actually like this? Zi Sheqing snorted coldly. I've already said that Wei Wuyan's master is not a good person. But you didn't believe me? Chu Yang smiled bitterly. I also have a master. I know how sacred my master is. The person I respect the most in my life is my master. So, I can completely understand Wei Wuyan's loyalty to his master. I never thought that there would be such a master in this world. Chu Yang sighed and thought of Meng Qiaoran. He believed that if he and his master had really reached the level of Wei Wuyan's master, his master would have already killed himself. He wouldn't want to be a burden to him and Wei Wuyan. Meng Qiaoran was such a person. But Wei Wuyan's master was the other extreme. In this world, the most terrible things are nothing but greed. Zi Sheqing said lightly, when there's no danger to life and death, any bad person can look like a saint. But when it's a critical moment, when he's out of control, he'll surprise people. Wei Wuyan's master, Hong Wuliang, is such a person. Zi Sheqing suddenly paused and said, no. It turns out that his master's wife was the lover of Lang Yilang. But she was raped by Hong Wuliang. She had no choice but to give herself to him. There's such a thing. The veins on Chu Yang's forehead almost popped out. Shameless villain. He's indeed a shameless villain. Zi Sheqing nodded. I'm going to take action. Wei Wuyan is in a very bad situation now. Chu Yang said, okay. In such a situation, if he were to take action, he would only be a burden to Zi Sheqing. He might as well hide at one side and wait. Just at the moment when Zi Sheqing was about to appear, there was a sudden loud bang. The entire cliff on the opposite side suddenly broke into pieces and collapsed. In the midst of the smoke, 4 figures shot up into the air at lightning speed. Just now, the atmosphere in the cave was also close to exploding. Yi Anren sneered and said, Little one, do you really think that your master is a good person? It's hard for you to be so loyal to him. But this guy has always been good at disguising himself. Lang Yilang, like you, was also tricked into working for him, risking his life to enter the martial world. Ah. Wei Wuyan muttered, it's thorns. Yi Anren said, do you know why Lang Yilang is so irreconcilable with him? Ah. Hong Wuliang shouted furiously, stop. Yi Anren said, why should I stop? Don't tell me that you're not allowed to talk about what you've done? Back then, Lang Yilang saved a woman and the two of them fell in love with each other. When your master saw that the woman was beautiful, he actually used despicable means to rape her. She had no choice but to leave Lang Yilang heartbroken. From then on, she disappeared without a trace. You're talking nonsense. Hong Wuliang roared furiously. I'm talking nonsense? Tell me yourself, how did your wife die? Yi Anren sneered. Wasn't she still tortured to death by you? You were jealous and angry that your wife couldn't forget Lang Yilang and actually killed him? Lang Yilang traveled thousands of miles to mourn for her but was rejected by you. It was only after Lang Yilang secretly checked the corpse that he found out the reason. That was why he fought with you. Hong Wuliang, tell me yourself, am I speaking the truth? Yi Anren sneered. I'm talking nonsense? In the big clans, every clan has records of supreme martial artists. All the big clans have records of this matter. Hong Wuliang, you despicable little one. Chapter 931. Yi Anren's words directly poked at Hong Wuliang's sore spot, causing Hong Wuliang to retaliate strongly. At the moment when his wife was mentioned, Hong Wuliang suddenly exploded. What do you know? Yi Anren, what right do you have to criticize my family matters? Hong Wuliang roared. His lotus-like features twisted and his whole body trembled. Suddenly he retreated with a shout. Everyone thought that he was going to attack, but they didn't expect him to retreat in such a situation. They were all stunned for a moment before they attacked at the same time. Hong Wuliang had already flown more than 100 feet away. He opened his hand and sucked. On the ground, thousands of purple crystals were sucked into the air. In an instant, they turned into a round purple gas and were sucked into his mouth like a whale sucking in water. Only then did he turn around abruptly. With a hideous smile, extremely strong cold air suddenly emitted from his body and exploded violently. His palms crazily struck out hundreds of times without any restraint. The three of them cursed in their hearts at the same time. They had to deal with such a violent attack with all their might. They had forgotten about this point. As a person with the purple crystal hand, after a period of time, the speed of absorbing the power of the purple crystals would become faster and faster. They could even suddenly release all the power of the purple crystals. Although the injuries of the purple crystal hand in their bodies would be aggravated by 5 times after this attack was still unstoppable. Left with no choice, the three of them exploded with all their might to resist. At the same time, Yi Anren sent out a telepathic message. Pay attention to the top. The power of the 4 supreme martial artists suddenly exploded in the cave. With a boom, the space around the cave expanded and split open at the same time. The huge mountain above also disintegrated abruptly. The whole mountain suddenly burst open and collapsed. Hong Wuliang roared and flew upwards towards the collapsed mountain like lightning. His palms were like huge axes that split open the sky, striking all the way up. Facing the collapsing mountain, he actually dashed upwards through every gap that was left by a hair's breadth. Moreover, his body was nimble. He dodged and moved. When the huge rocks came down, he smashed them with his palms and continuously created a path for him to dash outwards. Below, Yi Anren and the other two shouted at the same time. They followed behind him and dashed upwards with the same movements. What kind of power was the sudden collapse of the mountain? It could be said that the sky was falling and the earth was splitting. However, these 4 supreme martial artists were charging straight up towards the mountain that was crashing down on them. It was as if there was nothing there. Wei Wuyan roared sorrowfully, "I can't die, I want revenge." He stood up and was about to rush out, but he was seriously injured and couldn't rush out. Suddenly, a huge rock came crashing down and smashed him into the ground. The people waiting outside were wondering why there wasn't any movement inside. Suddenly, there was a huge explosion and the entire mountain collapsed. Countless boulders fell from above. They couldn't help being shocked and quickly dodged. Zhuge shouted, "Don't panic. Seal the sky, seal the sky. Hong Wuliang wants to escape from above." He suddenly regretted it. He had calculated everything, but how could he have overlooked this point? This was the battle prowess of a supreme being. In the blink of an eye, as the mountain collapsed, 4 silhouettes shot up into the sky like lightning. One of them was in the front, emitting a chilling aura. The other 3 were behind, emitting a towering rage. Hong Wuliang laughed loudly. "Yanren, I'll take my leave." Everyone was a 3rd-grade supreme martial artist. He had the upper hand and was already leading by quite a distance. As long as he changed his movement technique, he would be able to escape quickly. And under such circumstances, no one present could catch up with him. Yanren was angry and anxious. "Hong Wuliang, you shameless villain. Your disciple is buried below. Are you not going to care about him?" Hong Wuliang laughed loudly. "He already doesn't recognize me as his master. Why should I care about him?" He extended his body and flew away like a meteor. His body actually made a swoosh sound. Yi Anren sighed dejectedly, knowing that he couldn't stop him no matter what. Right at this moment, a faint voice said, "Who allowed you to leave?" Along with this faint voice, a white figure suddenly appeared in front of Hong Wuliang. He stretched out a hand gently and pinched Hong Wuliang's skull as if he was pinching a snail with 3 fingers. Under this person's hands, Hong Wuliang actually didn't have any strength to struggle at all. He was just carried like a dead fish. His body swayed and swayed in the air, but he couldn't even say a word. Yi Anren and the other 2 involuntarily stopped and gasped at the same time. Who was this person? The 3 of them looked at each other in shock. He didn't even see how he came out, nor did he see when he flew up. It was as if he had been there all along. He only stretched out his hand lightly and caught Hong Wuliang as easily as catching a mosquito that was slowly flying over. What was Hong Wuliang's cultivation? What was Hong Wuliang's speed when he hurriedly ran for his life just now? Not to mention other things, how could Hong Wuliang be slow when he could make a sonic boom when he just started? But under this person's hands, he was just like a puppet that couldn't move on its own. Then this person flew down with Hong Wuliang in his hand and gently kicked him. He kicked towards the void. With a whoosh, a hurricane was formed. An invincible force suddenly came out horizontally. The entire upper half of the mountain that had just collapsed was kicked a few thousand feet away strangely. Then it landed on the other side with a loud rumble. The ground here was also shaking, but the sound was much softer than before. This person waved his sleeves, and the remaining big rocks at the bottom flew out like straw. In an instant, only a cave with its ceiling opened was left. The gravel made a sound, and a bloody figure stood up from the pile of gravel. His face was full of blood and his body was ragged. His appearance couldn't be seen clearly, and only a pair of blood-red eyes could be seen. Then this person staggered out step by step. He seemed to be weak all over, but there was an aura of destruction around him. Puff, puff, puff. The three supreme martial artists were so shocked that they couldn't even stand steadily in the air. They landed on the ground one by one, protecting Yi Shiyu and Zhuge behind them. They looked as if they were facing a formidable enemy. Everyone looked up and saw this white figure holding Hong Wuliang standing a few hundred feet in front of them. This was an ostensibly safe distance. Although everyone knew that with this white figure's cultivation he could kill them with just a raise of his hand, but seeing that he was standing so far away, everyone still felt a little relieved. They couldn't see what this figure looked like and couldn't tell if it was a man or a woman. It seemed to be completely covered by a layer of hazy white light. Everyone could only feel a cold gaze sweeping over them. "I'll deal with this person. How about you all deal with him?" The white figure finally opened his mouth. Once he opened his mouth, he actually spoke in a negotiating tone. It was a woman's voice. Everyone's hearts shook and then they relaxed. Women were always soft-hearted. It seemed that there wasn't much danger today. At the same time, everyone became suspicious again. A woman? Where did such a powerful woman come from? I've never heard of such a powerful female expert in the heavenly layer. Feng Yuro could be counted as one, but this person in white clearly wasn't Feng Yuro. Yi Shiyu's mouth trembled and he said with a pale face, "If this senior wants to deal with this person personally, I have no objections." Yi Shiyu naturally had his reasons for speaking before Zhuge. Although he was afraid, he also knew that this was a great opportunity. He had never seen such a peerless expert in his life. If he could leave a good impression on her, it would be very beneficial. Moreover, in Yi Shiyu's heart there was another thought: we're all women, sisters. It should be easier to talk to, therefore he spoke before her. And a wise man submits to circumstances. He immediately agreed to the white-robed person's request. Once Yi Shiyu spoke, the white-robed person suddenly became quiet. Everyone clearly saw that the white-robed person actually trembled as she grabbed Hong Wuliang's arm. Then, the white-robed person took in a breath of cold air. A strange emotion suddenly spread in his heart. Yi Shiyu instantly felt that something was wrong. His scalp inexplicably felt numb and he was confused. He thought to himself, "I didn't say anything wrong." Just as he was feeling puzzled, the white-robed person threw Hong Wuliang onto the ground, stepped on him with one foot and opened her other hand. Yi Shiyu involuntarily flew up into the air. He exclaimed in shock, "Elder." "I." The man in white grabbed Yi Shiyu and without any explanation, he slapped Yi Shiyu's face like a torrential downpour. She slapped him in the front, slapped him in the back, slapped him in the front and slapped him repeatedly. Yi Shiyu couldn't move. His face was slapped to the left by one slap, then slapped to the right by another slap, and so on. In the blink of an eye, this third Master Yi was beaten into a pig's head. His face was swollen. His eyes were filled with confusion. "How did I offend you? Why did you hit me without any explanation?" I'll let you. The white-robed person said angrily, "You've disgusted me along the way and now you actually dare to do so in front of me?" Yi Shiyu widened his eyes miserably. "So it's because of this. Oh, what a blunder. Go back." The white-robed person kicked third Master Ye's stomach, and Yi Shiyu slipped back like he was on a slide. He actually happened to be standing at his original position again. After calming himself down, he hurriedly cupped his fists and laughed heartily. "Elder, thank you for your teachings. Elder, thank you for your mercy." This sentence was already spoken in an authentic manly tone. After being beaten up, he actually started to thank the white-robed person immediately. The white-robed person snorted and said, "Shut up." Yi Shiyu smiled apologetically and said flatteringly, "Elder, if you ask me to shut up, I'll definitely not say a word." As he said, he indeed shut his mouth, looking like an obedient child. He turned around and walked behind Zhuge, but as he walked, he couldn't help but shake his butt twice, as if he had suddenly realized something. Then he walked with a majestic gait, and only after 5 steps did he turn around and stand valiantly and proudly. You're tuning in to the Han Lee's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.